You've had a long day, and now you can let it go. Let the tension ease from your shoulders. Let the weight of today of decisions, deadlines, and distractions soften and fall away like old dust from worn cloth. There's nothing you need to do now. Nowhere you need to be. Breathe. The streets aren't paved. They are rutted, earth and straw. The homes are timber-framed, with smoke curling from thatched rooftops. Chickens dart across your path. The air smells faintly of bread, wood smoke, and sometimes sewage. Its nav is still being shaped. Daily difficult work. But already, it casts a shadow. But above it all, rising higher than the rooftops, higher than the castle walls, are the beginnings of something greater. The cathedral, its tower, isn't finished. For the people below, it is a monument to God, to order, to eternity. But for the men who labor on it, it is work. And so, we begin there, into the hidden places, where secrets are carved into corners, where bones are buried under stone slabs, and where symbols whisper of meanings now mostly forgotten. We'll start in the dirt, in the dust, with those who shaped the stone, with men who spent their entire lives carving one column. The bishop's chambers where walls are thick, candles burn low, and decisions about kings, coins, and creeds are made behind closed doors, or chiseling one window frame, of rope and lime and echoes in stone. Then Ella, walk in the footsteps of a man who dreamed on parchment, and built with vision a master mason, whose drawings traveled across kingdoms. Next, we'll descend beneath the cathedral, and finally, we'll climb to the quietest rooms of all. But for now, just be here, in this slower world, in this place of quiet labor and slow faith, of dusts in the lungs and songs in the rafters. The story is about to begin. Let's step into the rhythm of the builders. Life beneath the cathedral walls, the day begins long before the sun fully rises. Your eyes open slowly, not to the chirp of electronics or the shuffle of traffic, but to the soft creak of timbers above your head, and the shifting of bodies beside you. The scent of old wood smoke, damp wool, and straw fills your lungs. It is not pleasant, but it is familiar. This is your home if the word applies. The joints in your knees popped faintly. You stretch without meaning to, arms reaching toward the low ceiling, then rub the back of your neck with a hand that feels too heavy already. A shared wooden hut at the edge of the construction yard, one of several that house those who labor on the cathedral's bones. A few speak in low murmurs, someone coughs, someone curses at the cold, but mostly, the room is filled with quiet rustling. You hear the thud of boots, the swish of fabric being pulled over shoulders, the clink of iron tools being belted into place. Occasionally there's a bit of onion, or a turnip to share, but not today. You sleep on a mat of straw, your body already aching before your feet even touch the ground. From a distance, the structure looks almost like a ship run aground. Ribs of scaffolding protruding from its sides, wooden beams laced together like a spider's web. High above, the smallest silhouettes of men are already moving along the wooden catwalks. There is no mattress, just a blanket made from thick, scratchy wool. The climb isn't long, but your legs still feel heavy. The stone is already there, cut rough, waiting to be shaped. The morning bread has done little to dull the memory of yesterday's labor, and the breath of a dozen other men, still lingering in the cold morning air. The morning mist clings to the roofs of nearby cottages. One shape, over and over, the capstone of an arch, the frame of a window. You run your hand along the stone's edge. It is rough, like dried salt. A grain breaks away under your thumb. His hair is a mess of curls, his hands already red and raw from rope work. He doesn't speak, just nods, and sets the tools down beside you. He will spend the day lifting buckets of stone chips, cleaning debris, and learning the difference between weight and balance. If he stays, and survives, he may one day be a master. You wear a scarf over your mouth when you can, but it does little. By now, your throat is used to the dryness. Many of the older cutters wheeze when they speak. Some barely speak at all. The muscles are tired, but there is still more to do, always more. A new block arrives heavier than the last. It takes 3 men and a pulley system to raise it into position. Your back aches, but you hardly notice. The repetition dulls all other thoughts. The scaffold sways slightly in the wind. Some eat, some simply stare into the middle distance. No one says much. A few townsfolk kneel in silence within, their candles flickering. Far below, you can hear voices rising, now vendors setting up their stalls, the blacksmith opening his shutters, the first bells from the abbey ringing the hour. A bowl is passed around, barley, again, with bits of leek this time. You eat slowly, each bite soothing but The conversation is sparse. A comment about weather, a quiet joke about the foreman's mood, nothing more. They've been inhaling stone dust for decades, and their lungs have the sound of hollow logs when they cough, like waves against the hull of a ship, or the ticking of an unseen clock, the subtle curve of a column that will eventually rest on the shoulders of statues not yet carved. The wind carries the smell of horses from the market. Someone nearby sings a hymn, softly. Some men pause to stretch, their backs arching against the scaffold beams. Your sweat, your dust, will be part of it forever. One man rubs his eyes and blinks at the horizon, as though surprised to see the sunset. It is not heavy, it is simply what you have grown used to. The town is still quiet, no carts yet, no market cries. It is soft, as stone goes easy to cut, but also easy to ruin. Just the soft clatter of hooves in the far distance, and the muffled bleating of a goat somewhere in the fog. You wipe the sweat from your brow and gather your tools. You descend the scaffold one last time, careful on the rope ladder, your knees protesting every step. You sit up slowly. Your fingers are stiff, cracked around the nails, flecked with white dust that never quite washes out. The other men rise too, most of them silent, their movements practiced and minimal. The cathedral must hold weight, not just for years, but for centuries. Every cut, every curve, every line must be exact. There's bread dense, stale, a bit sour. A chunk is handed to you without ceremony. You tear into it with your teeth, the crust brittle enough to scrape the roof of your mouth. A small clay cup makes its way around the group. Ale, thin and warm, safer than the water from the stream beyond the wall, which often runs cloudy and carries the runoff from tanneries upstream. You chew in silence. The bread is dry, the ale is bitter, but it fills your stomach, and you know not to expect more. Once your tools are gathered, your mallet, your chisel, your level and string, you sling the leather pouch over your shoulder and step outside. The cathedral looms just ahead. Even half-finished, it is the largest thing most of you have ever seen. Its walls rise above the rooftops of the town, though the towers have not yet been completed. You approach the site and begin the climb, your boots thudding against the creaking scaffolding, one hand gripping the rope handrails that have already been repaired more than once this month. At your post, you unpack your tools. Today, like most days, your task is repetitive. One block. The stone is pale, chalky limestone pulled from a quarry not far away. You begin with the chisel. The first strike of the mallet echoes through the scaffold, mingling with dozens of others. Tap, tap, tap. The rhythm is constant, so steady it almost becomes background noise. Dust rises with each stroke. It coats your arms, your face, the folds of your tunic. The work is slow. You must carve with precision. If your angle is wrong by even a finger's width, the piece will not fit. You pause occasionally to inspect your work with a square. A boy, perhaps 10 or 11, brings more chisels. He is an apprentice, but not for many years. You work until the sun is fully above the rooftops. A short break comes. A few mouthfuls of weak ale, a place to sit on a beam with your legs hanging over the side. The silence is not grim. The work resumes. Later in the day, your arm begins to tremble slightly. You guide it into place. Your hands are black with dust and dirt. Your tunic is soaked through at the collar. As the light fades, so does the energy of the crew. Mallets strike a little more slowly. Voices grow quieter. By the time the final bell rings, your fingers are numb. The town is warmer, now fires have been lit, and the scent of stew and wood smoke carries through the narrow alleys. You pass the chapel, its door still open. Back at your hut, the others arrive one by one, boots muddy, shoulders slumped. You remove your belt, unlace your boots, and sink onto the straw. You lie down once more. The straw pokes at your skin. Your hands are still gritty, but your eyes close easily. Outside, the great cathedral sleeps. Too, its stones silent in the dusk, its bones unfinished, its soul, perhaps, still forming. But one day, it will stand, and though no one will remember your name, your hands, you've had a long day, and now, you can let it go. Let your thoughts drift, gently, back through time, to a world built by hand, a world of stone, and silence, of dust, and devotion. Cathedrals that would rise for centuries built by hands that would never see them finished. The year is somewhere in the 1200s, the heart of the High Middle Ages. Imagine yourself in a European town, unpaved, uneven, still small. The streets are muddy, the roofs are thatched, timber beams creak in the morning wind. And always, in the distance, the cathedral, not yet finished, perhaps never to be finished in your lifetime, but already towering, already rising, like a stone prayer into the sky. This is the rhythm of your life, and today you are a stone cutter. The sun is not yet fully risen. You wake before the bells, not to light or alarms, but to the shuffle of others beside you, the weight of cold air, and the scratch of straw beneath your shoulder blades. You open your eyes slowly. The ceiling above is rough. What's left is just warmth trapped under a woolen blanket. A low fire died sometime in the night, and the soft rustle of men pulling on boots and tunics. You sit up. The ache in your back greets you like an old companion. The air inside the hut is thick with sleep, sweat, and the faintest scent of yesterday's dust. Just a crust of bread stale, hard at the edges passed, silently from one hand to the next. You chew slowly, words are few, voices quiet. Conversation is saved for later, or not at all. There is no ceremony to the morning. A few spoonfuls of barley broth are shared from a shared pot, now just warm, no longer steaming. The ground is damp with last night's mist. A cart creaks as it turns onto the main street. Outside, the sky is only beginning to pale. You cinch your leather belt, tie tool pouches hanging from either sedan, pull your hood low. The tools you carry are simple: mallet, chisel, square, and plumb, each worn by use, each essential. You walk slowly through the quiet town, past shuttered windows and the crooked teeth of old timber homes. You hear them before you reach the site. Chickens stir in their pens, and always ahead the unfinished skeleton of the cathedral stretches skyward. Even in its half-born state, the cathedral is enormous. The scaffolding climbs like a web of timber, creaking gently in the wind. Wooden planks groan under the weight of men and stone, and canvas awnings flap in the breeze, above soft sounds, like sails on a ship. Each rung of rope or beam beneath your boots is known, but still watched carefully. One misstep, and the fall could be final. Your station today is on the eastern transept, a curved arch to be set with carved stones. The edge, sharp not like a knife, but like something that bites in short, patient breaths. The sun is behind the clouds, but it's rising, and you'll be working until it begins to sink again. The block is waiting. It rests on a simple trestle table, pale limestone from the quarry, roughly shaped. Your job is to refine it, to draw out its form, to make it fit. You grip your mallet. Oak, worn, smooth by time, heavy but balanced. The wood is warm to the touch, fine as flour, soft as snow. It gathers in your lashes. In your other hand, your chisel, iron, cool and solid. Gentle, predictable, like a heartbeat or a prayer. The first strike is always deliberate. Tap. A puff of dust lifts, floats, and settles onto your sleeve. Blow softly. Watch the dust spiral into the cool morning air. Tap, tap, tap. The rhythm forms quickly. The dust rises with every strike, in the creases of your knuckles. It soaks into the folds of your tunic, already gray with the work of days past. You stop, and begin again. The act of carving is slow. It must be. There is no rushing stone. The cathedral will not be rushed. You press the flat of your palm against the surface, feeling for unevenness, the tiny ridges left by yesterday's chisel, a curve that will echo in arches far above your head. Someday, you guide the chisel carefully now, holding it like a quill between thumb and forefinger. Every strike must be measured. Every edge must line up with unseen others, and may never be placed at all. What you shape today may not be placed for weeks, but still you shape it. Around you, other cutters work in silence. Dozens of hands, dozens of mallets, striking stone in unison, each note slightly different. A chorus of labor, a slow song in dust and effort. You pause again to inspect your work. A strut edge is drawn from your pouch. You measure, you squint, you adjust the angle of the chisel, and again, tap the canvas above, flap softly. You hear the wind tug at the wooden posts that hold it up. The air smells of lime, of dust, of cold iron, and old sweat. Your thoughts wander, but your hands know the work. Tap tap. Hours pass this way, bread again. A swallow of thin ale, not rushed, not idled, simply passed, like water through fingers. You break for a short meal. No one speaks much. Some stretch their backs, others rest with their eyes closed. And then, the tools again. Another block. You cut until your palm tingles, until your shoulder hums with weariness. until the light begins to change and the breeze picks up, until the dust clings like a second skin. You are tired but not surprised. The body grows used to this. The rhythm is its own reward. Some say the best cutters feel the stone breathe beneath them, that it tells them how it wants to be shaped. Perhaps that's true, or perhaps, after so many days, so many months, brush the dust from your hands. You've simply learned to listen to what cannot speak. By late afternoon, your arms tremble a little with each strike. The sun begins its slow descent. The shadows grow long across the neck. A bell rings in the abbey tower. The sound rolls over the rooftops, down alleyways, across the fields beyond. A baby cries somewhere behind a shutter. You lower your chisel, wipe the sweat from your brow. The block is unfinished. It will wait, stretching out on straw, loosening boots. You descend the scaffold, one careful step at a time. But it was not new. It was like yesterday. The ropes sway gently. Below, the stone yard is quieting. In the streets, you pass townsfolk beginning their suppers. The smell of onions and broth drifts on the air. You reach the hut. Inside, the others are already there, dipping chunks of bread into shared bowls. You sit, you eat, you say little. The day was not easy, and it will be like tomorrow. You lie back, its stones pale and quiet, its towers half-built. The blanket over your chest is rough, but warm. Your fingers twitch slightly, still remembering the grip of the chisel. Your body sinks into the straw. Outside, the sky deepens. A star appears, then another. Somewhere, a bell rings again, quieter, now farther away. The cathedral stands in the night. It does not yet sing with light, but it is rising. And your hands, your breath, your dust, are part of it now, forever. You are not alone up here, though the wind sometimes makes it feel that way, and the dust between your lashes narrows the world to the next strike of the chisel. There are others, always others, working beside you. Above, a man adjusts the pulley line. Below, another lays out fresh stone on a sledge. And beside you, always just beside you, is someone younger. He's still learning. You can tell by the way he holds the mallet too tightly, by the tension in his shoulders, by the pauses, long ones, where he forgets whether to hit or to wait. He watches you. You never told him to, but he does. And that's how it begins for most, by watching. Watching the way older hands wrap linen strips around knuckles. Watching how chalk lines are snapped tight across unfinished blocks. Watching when to speak and when not to. The guild doesn't teach that part. Codes. The cost of stone and the weight of sin. The guild teaches rules, but the craft, the rhythm, the habit, the knowing without needing to think. That lives only in the space, between one man's silence and another's glance. You remember your own first winter. You've got a quiet look, a nod toward the extra tools, your shoulders stiff from lifting too much, too soon. You remember how you dropped your chisel once. It fell all the way down, clattering 3 levels, splitting someone's bowl in half. You expected punishment, and a man who said, simply, "You'll drop worse." Now, it is your turn. So you let the boy watch. He just nods. When the time feels right, you say just one thing. Don't strike to finish. Strike to begin. He doesn't ask what you mean. That's enough. A work constant. The days are long, but between the weight of the labor and the stillness of the hours, something else begins to grow. Not friendship exactly, more like a shared quiet. A companionship made of patience and proximity. During the midday meal, you sit in a wide circle with the others, backs against the half-built wall. The same watered ale, the same stale bread. Someone passes a chunk of cheese with a dry joke. Fit for a bishop's dog, but good enough for us. Soft laughter, muted, but real. The apprentice doesn't laugh yet. He's watching again. This time, not at your hands, but at the way men lean into each other. The way no one needs to speak to feel welcome. Across the circle, an elder mason carefully unwraps a wool cloth to reveal a pear. He cuts it into 5 thin slices, then offers one to the apprentice. The boy hesitates, then takes it. Not a word is said, but a place has been given. Later, back on the scaffold, a melody begins. It drifts up from the lower levels, just a soft tune hummed under breath. You can't place it. A hymn maybe, or a song once sung to a child. The sound is quiet, but it travels. You hear it in the pause between hammer strikes, in the way one man begins to tap his foot, in the way someone nearby picks up the second half of the tune and hums it back, slightly out of time. The boy glances at you, unsure. You nod once. He joins in. A little too loud at first, but no one shooshes him. The sound doesn't last long, maybe 2 minutes, but in those 2 minutes, the air feels different. Not lighter, exactly, but more human. As the day winds down, the steward makes his round. The steward doesn't speak often. When he does, it's usually brief and firm. But today, he stops near your station and watches your apprentice. The boy straightens unconsciously, adjusts his grip. The steward squints, says nothing, then reaches over and adjusts the chisel slightly. Better, he murmurs. Let the line lead you. The boy breathes again. When the steward walks away, the boy whispers, "Did he mean that?" You shrugged. He didn't mean the line. The boy looks confused, but someday he'll understand. By the time the final bell tolls, the light is falling sideways across the site. You help pack the tools. You lift a heavy stone tarp together, fold it slowly, carefully. The boy struggles with one corner. You wait without speaking. A few men are rubbing their backs now. Someone mutters that his knees are stiff as frozen hinges. Another chuckles. Your knees. My toes haven't bent in 2 winters. More laughter, this time, full-bodied, and for a brief moment, the dust in the air catches golden light, and everything seems suspended. Back in the communal quarters, the apprentices sit together, but not apart. Close enough to listen. Far enough to observe. Someone is carving a spoon by firelight. You're not shaping it, you're asking it to change. Someone else is rewrapping their wrist, muttering about the weather. The old mason who shared the pair leans back and speaks slowly. Each stone has its own will. The apprentices say nothing. They've heard that before. They'll hear it again. But someday, it will land differently. Your apprentice speaks, just before sleep. Do you think I'll carve a gargoyle? You blink. Stare up at the ceiling beams overhead. Maybe, you say. He thinks for a moment longer. What do they do with the broken ones? You turn your head, look at him through the firelight. The gargoyles, or the men, the sounds of breathing rise around you soft, slow, steady. He doesn't answer, neither do you, because that's not a question for tonight. You pull your blanket over your chest. The fire is low. The day will come again tomorrow, with dust, with wind, with stone, but also with voices, with memory, with hands reaching out to teach what words alone cannot. And in this way, through repetition, through rhythm, through quiet acts of cathedral rises, and you rise with it. You've spent the day bent over, your hands wrapped in coarse linen, the grains of stone dust settling like a soft fog upon your skin. The rhythm of hammer and chisel has become as natural as breathing, steady and The air is cool, touched by the dampness of the nearby river and the faint scent of lime from freshly mixed mortar. And devotion. The arches you carve are meant to cradle light, to hold the sunlight as it filters through stained glass, splashing colors on the cold floors below. Your work is heavy and slow, but it is also a kind of prayer, a silent, steadfast offering. The distant toll of a bell echoes softly, calling the faithful to evening prayer. It is a sound you know well, one that feels like the heartbeat of this place, steady and sure. The spires you help raise will belong to generations yet unborn. It links the mud beneath your boots to the vaulted heavens dreamed of by those who commissioned these walls. Stone outlasts memory, they say. It remembers longer than flesh. And in their words, there is comfort and purpose. They watch you with wide eyes, their fingers clumsy on the tools, their cheeks flushed with the effort of learning. The apprentices watch, absorb, imitate. The elder masons correct with a gentle hand. A quiet word of wisdom passed down from generation to generation. There is no rush here, only the slow accumulation of knowledge and the careful building of legacy. Sometimes, between strikes, one hums softly a song learned from his mother, a lullaby drifting on the breeze to settle the dust. It's a small moment of lightness in the long hours of labor. Your hands trace the smooth curve of a column, your fingers resting lightly on the rough surface you shaped. You imagine the prayers that will rise here, the soft voices seeking comfort, the quiet moments of reflection that will fill these halls. Each stroke of your chisel is a note in a slow, solemn hymn sung without sound, not just of stone and mortar, but of meaning. The cathedral will stand long after you are gone, a testament to the lives woven into its very fabric. You might never witness the first mass said beneath those vaulted ceilings, the flicker of candles in the dim nave, or the whispered hopes of those who will find solace here. But still, you build, and now, as the light fades low and the shadows lengthen, it's time to rest. You let your mind drift, carried gently by the rhythm of your day's work, the steady tap of chisel, the soft murmur of the river, the distant bells calling the faithful home. But not before reflecting on what your labor means beyond the sweat and the dust. Hands are often wrapped in linen, protecting cracked skin and worn calluses. Joints ache in ways that remind you of wood swelling and creaking in the cold of winter. Some men cough more than they speak. The dust, they say, settles in the chest and never leaves. It is a quiet companion, a reminder of the cost paid in silence. Imagine yourself here, on the edge of this growing town, where the cathedral's frame rises slowly against the fading sky. This is a world of stone, and silence. You shape each block with patient care, knowing these stones will outlast your lifetime. No one here may ever see the cathedral finished. You build with sore hands, with backs that ache like old timber bent under snow. You build with joints that creak like the beams of the scaffolding around you. His steps are soft on the stone dust, trailing the faint curl of incense smoke behind him. You watch him pause, resting his hand lightly on a freshly carved column, eyes closed in quiet meditation. In this moment, the world feels suspended between effort and grace, between the earthly and the divine. And you build with a quiet faith, one forged in the daily grind of toil and the simple hope that this place will endure. The priest passes occasionally, not to command or rebuke, but to walk. This labor is a bridge. It connects the sweat of your brow to the light above. You sometimes hear the elder masons speak in hushed tones of time, how they are not just shaping stone but carving eternity. You work side by side with boys, just beginning their apprenticeship. You see the rhythm of their lives unfolding, the steady passing down of craft, the patient shaping of skill like the stones themselves. The physical toll of this work is always present but softened in your thoughts. Yet, despite these hardships, you return each day with a steady heart, because you know that in these small acts, the cutting, the lifting, the shaping, there is a profound act of creation. And so, even as the sun dips below the horizon and the stars begin to blink awake, you linger a little longer near your work. This is the soul of your work, the unseen, unspoken legacy. A prayer built from sweat and stone, a promise held in the dust, a quiet love etched into the earth. In the stillness of the evening, as the town settles into sleep and the night air cools, you find peace in knowing that your labor, humble as it may be, is part of something eternal. You close your eyes and breathe in the scent of damp stone and fading sunlight, and as you drift toward rest, the cathedral stands tall in your thoughts, a silent guardian of dreams yet to come. You've worked long and hard. The sun, now sinking low, spreads its final golden light across the town, softening the edges of timber-framed houses and cobbled streets alike. The warmth of the day eases into a gentle coolness, wrapping the village in a calm that feels both tender and familiar. Imagine yourself stepping away from the scaffolded frame of the cathedral, a skeletal giant reaching toward the sky, unfinished, yet already casting a quiet presence over the land, and drying hay, the faint sweetness of herbs hung to dry in darkened lofts. There is a softness to the sounds, too, the low murmur of neighbors greeting one another, the scrape of a broom sweeping the doorstep, the occasional laughter shared in hushed tones, careful not to disturb the settling night. The heavy wooden door greets you with a familiar resistance before it swings open, revealing the warm glow of a hearth fire. The air inside carries the rich scent of a simmering stew with root vegetables, mingled with savory herbs, their flavors slow cooking into tender softness. A small kettle hums quietly nearby, steam rising in lazy spirals that catch the firelight, carrying faint whispers of chamomile and mint, calming and familiar. The soft murmur of family voices, the clink of wooden bowls being set on the table, the quiet shuffle of feet on straw-strewn floors all fold together in a comforting chorus. A child's low giggle escapes from the corner, a soft thread of light in the calm evening, and somewhere, a cat pads silently across the floor, tail flicking. Inside, shadows dance gently along the rough timber walls, flickering in the amber light as the flames whisper and crackle. The dust of stone, fine as powdered earth, settles quietly in your lungs, a secret companion that some say never quite leaves. It steals breath slowly, a silent reminder of the sacrifices made with every swing of hammer and stroke of chisel. Each block of stone shaped with sore hands is meant to hold light as if it were a prayer. The cathedral is more than a building. It is a bridge between earth and sky, between the temporal and the eternal. Some men cough more than they speak, their voices low, their breaths shallow. Yet still, the work continues. Your hands rest heavily on your knees, wrapped in strips of coarse, linen soft bandages, shielding the small cuts, scrapes, and aches, earned through the day's labor. The stone waits, the cathedral dreams in shadow, and you drift gently toward sleep. They listen intently to the elder masons, who share their wisdom with quiet patience, passing down secrets of geometry, strength, and balance, like sacred prayers. Their lessons are slow, careful, like the careful laying of stone upon stone. And sometimes, when the day grows too long, laughter breaks through the brief, bright flash of joy that softens even the hardest days. Your bed awaits a rough pallet stuffed with straw, covered with a worn but familiar blanket. You lie down slowly, the coarse fabric rough against your skin but full of the quiet comfort of home. The day's dust settles gently on your body, mingling with the warm breath of night. These hands, rough and calloused, tell stories of tireless work, of the cold iron tools held tight, the slow, steady rhythm of hammer meeting chisel, the stubborn resistance of stone yielding, ever so slightly, to human will. The wind reaches softly, carrying the cool scent of wet earth and moss, brushing against the window panes with a whispering touch. Still, they lay stone upon stone, driven by a purpose that stretches beyond their own lives. It is a rhythm as old as time, a slow, steady song sung by countless hands across generations. Somewhere in the rafters, mice scurry gently, their tiny footsteps barely stirring the stillness. The towering arches and half-carved stones stand as silent witnesses to days and months of labor, to the hands that shaped them and the breath that formed them. The creak of timber frames settling, the soft shuffle of night creatures in the thatch, the distant tolling of a bell marking the passage of hours all weave together into a lullaby sung by the dark. The rhythm of your walk is slow, unhurried, matching the deep exhale of the day's end. Around you, the village breathes with a gentle life of its own. Your thoughts drift slowly, like the curling smoke above the hearth, carried on the soft currents of night. You picture the arches you carved, each curve and line a testament to the strength and care of your hands. Though you may never see its soaring spires fully completed, your work is part of something larger, a slow, enduring dream set in stone. The soft rustle of leaves brushing against worn stone walls, the faint flutter of curtains in a window's breeze. The wind moves with gentle fingers, tugging softly at your cloak, carrying with it the quiet peace of the approaching dark. Doors swing closed with a faint creak, shutters whisper softly on their hinges, and the occasional bark or distant voice punctuates the quiet like a gentle heartbeat. Your footsteps fall softly on the packed earth, muffled by straw and dust. The air is rich with the mingling scents of evening, the smoky temps of wood smoke curling from chimneys, the earthy aroma of damp clay as you pass beneath the fading light. You notice the small details that make this moment whole. A moth drifting lazily through the golden rays slowly. You make your way to your home, a modest, familiar place nestled among others like it. The hearth's warmth wraps around you like a well-loved cloak. You lower yourself onto a simple wooden bench by the fire, feeling the day's weight ease from your limbs. Around you, life continues in its gentle, measured way. Outside the windows, night deepens. Stars begin to twinkle through parting clouds, shy and steady beacons in the vast sky. You close your eyes for a moment, breathing in the mingled scents of firewood, herbs, and the faint, lingering dust of stone. The cathedral you helped shape today stands silent and proud in the distance. The toll of labor presses gently on your body. Your joints creak softly, like ancient wood bending with the seasons. You think two of the apprentices, young faces full of eager light, their voices carrying hope and questions. In these moments, you glimpse the deeper meaning beneath the dust and sweat. This is not merely toil, this is devotion. No one here may ever see the cathedral finished, yet still, they build. Now, as the fire dwindles to glowing embers, you prepare for rest. Outside, the world grows still. You listen, breathing deeply and slowly, your mind quieting as the steady pulse of night embraces you. The day's story folds softly closed, and in this quiet moment, peace is found. You've been among the dust and stone, among scaffolds that creak and tools that ring like bells. You've felt the rhythm of labor, not hurried, but unending, a cadence carved from muscle and repetition. Watched your breath cloud in the morning cold, and felt the ache that settles into joints like frost into timber. You've walked the scaffold as the sun rose behind unfinished towers. But now, we step away. The chisel rests in a wooden tray. The hammer is silent. Your boots meet the earth again. The cathedral, ever rising, stands still in the twilight. Its ribs of stone wait patiently for another dawn. And you descend the ladders. Let the dust fall from your shoulders. Let your breath slow. There is another side to this work, a quieter one. A man who walked not from one wall to the next, but from one kingdom to another, collecting knowledge, sketching it carefully, and preserving it across centuries, not shaped by noise or sweat, but by thought, not made of stone, but of ink. Let us wander now into the life of a man who did not build cathedrals with his hands, but who helped guide those who did. His name, Villard de Honnecourt, is not etched into cathedral facades, nor sung in liturgical verse, and yet his thoughts remain, bound between the pages of a sketchbook, simple, worn, quiet. You won't find flourishes of ego in his folio, no grand prologue, no gilded claim of genius, just lines, diagrams, observations. He moved from town to town, through muddy lanes, across frozen rivers, beneath winter stars, a fire burning low in the hearth of some distant chamber. He visited builders, monasteries, towers in progress. He watched, he listened, drawings of rows, windows, of cranes, of saints, of lions, of machines and men, towers and tools. Each one a fragment, not of a building, but of the mind that observed it. This was the 13th century, an age of slow change and soaring faith. Cathedrals were rising across Europe, lifting stone into sacred geometry, and Villa wandered among them. There are no battles, no coronations, no sermons shouted from pulpits. He did not stay long in one place. And then he drew. Imagine now, as you lie still, a man hunched over parchment, ink-stained fingers steady, eyes tracing the invisible line from memory to page. Outside, a town sleeps. Inside, a thought becomes a sketch, to be passed down, hand to hand. His book was not meant for kings, but for craftsmen. It was not read in courts, but studied on dusty workbenches, beside plans and stones. This segment is not about loud events. Instead, it is about quiet craft, about memory, about a man who walked more miles than he could count, and gave shape to what he saw so others might build after him. So, let your breathing ease, let your thoughts walk with us, not rushed, but steady, one foot, then the next, one drawing, then another. We will begin by meeting the man, and then we'll open his book, a book that still rests, nearly 8 centuries later, in a quiet archive, its ink faded, its thoughts still clear. Let us turn the page. It was the 13th century, a time before the tick of clocks filled city squares, a time before maps showed borders we now know. This was a Europe still shaped by land and faith, by river valleys and stone churches, by seasons, sunrises, and the slow turning of time. The world was smaller then, yet it reached for something vast, and nowhere was that longing more visible than in the cathedrals. Those monumental spires of devotion that rose, almost impossibly, from the soft earth of medieval towns. It was an age of stone and light. The great Gothic cathedrals, in Chartres-Miens, Strasbourg, stood as signs of human hands, reaching toward heaven, of geometry wrapped in reverence, of ambition cloaked in stillness. But these cathedrals did not arrive all at once. They took generations. They were begun by one group of builders, continued by their children, and completed by hands that would never meet those who laid the first stone. And in this quiet continuity, a hidden network began to form, not one bound by parchment or crown, but by stone and sketch, by movement, slow, deliberate, and often solitary. The builders traveled, not all of them, not the laborers tied to towns, or the novices under apprenticeship, but a few the masters, walked across kingdoms. They carried nothing loud, no trumpets announced them. What they brought instead was knowledge, passed hand to hand, line to line. In the time before mass printing, before architectural plans were shared widely, learning happened on the road. A traveling master mason might walk for weeks just to see a particular vault. He might sleep on a straw pallet in an unfamiliar town simply to ask one question. How did they build that arch? And this is the world into which Villard de Honnecourt quietly stepped. These were not yet the rigid trade organizations of later centuries, but more fluid brotherhoods. They protected their techniques, taught and passed down secrets, often orally or sketched hastily into wax tablets or parchment folios. France, in Villa's lifetime, was a patchwork of regions, loosely connected, loosely governed, deeply faithful. The church was the greatest landowner, the greatest builder, and the greatest patron. The pages he left behind show a man who moved from Leon to Reims, perhaps further. His book records not just what he saw, but what he wanted others to learn. His sketches speak not to kings, but to craftsmen. He did not build a cathedral of his own. Cathedrals were more than places of worship. They were projects that gave shape to entire towns. To work on one was not just to earn a living, it was to participate in something holy. And so, from site to site, knowledge moved. In the early 13th century, guilds of builders began to take firmer shape. Into this fragile web came Villard with the ink on his fingers and geometry in his mind. He didn't stay in one place, and they are full of quiet curiosity. Quietly, patiently, on roads that dusted his cloak and inked his thoughts, you'll find cranes designed for hoisting heavy stone. You'll find diagrams of arches and vaults. You'll find animals and saints, proportions and puzzles, even glimpses of far-off places he may never have seen himself. He did not claim genius, but in that time, when few could read, and fewer still could draw with precision, to make a book of knowledge was to offer a kind of silent instruction, one that could live long after the man had walked on. The Gothic style itself was evolving. In northern France, it was bold and light-seeking, high vaults, pointed arches, and windows that seemed to float. In the German lands, it grew taller and more sculpted, emphasizing verticality and dense ornament. Italian builders, meanwhile, tempered Gothic height with classical restraint, facades of patterned marble, smaller windows, broader forms. Each region shaped stone differently, but through it all, men like Villard helped the language of architecture stay connected. Sketch by sketch, step by step, he may have never laid the final stone of a transept or carved a single gargoyle, but he helped others do it. As you rest here, listening and breathing, you might imagine him now, a solitary figure at the edge of a construction yard, studying a new vault. Later, in a dim lodging house, oil lamp flickering, drawing what he saw by hand. A few lines on vellum passed from one generation to the next. A man who belonged not to one church, but to all of them. A quiet architect of continuity. And in the calm of that knowing, we begin to see the shape of the man himself. You can almost imagine him, Villard, as a quiet observer moving slowly through the towns and countryside of 13th century France. Not a man of loud declarations or grandiose ambitions, but someone who saw the world with patient, thoughtful eyes. His name, Villard de Honnecourt, is only known because of the collection of sketches and notes he left behind, pages filled with drawings of cathedrals, animals, machines, and even human figures. He sketched to remember, to teach, and to inspire. There is a quiet humility in his work, as if he knew that the buildings he helped shape would outlast him by centuries. His travels took him to bustling towns and quiet villages, to the workshops of other masons and carpenters. Two places where knowledge was shared, like a soft-spoken conversation. You can almost hear the soft murmur of guild meetings, the exchange of tips and tricks, the passing down of secrets in low voices over worn wooden tables. He saw, he sketched, he shared. This refrain might echo softly through his days, with every step along muddy roads and cobblestone streets, with every night spent under the glow of a flickering candle. Villard quietly gathered the building blocks of history. He would never see the cathedrals finished, those grand stone testimonies to faith and craftsmanship, rising slowly like mountains sculpted by human hands. Villard de Honnecourt invites us to slow down, to look closer at the details around us, and the world unfolding beneath his fingers, a world of stone and shadow, dust and devotion, patiently built to touch the heavens. To appreciate the patient hands that shaped the medieval world, and the quiet minds that recorded it, so that even centuries later, we might share in the rhythm of their days. The pages of his book do not shout his feelings or thoughts, but hint at a man who listened carefully to the world around him, a man of patience, who could sit for hours studying a column's curve or a metal hinge. The itinerant master mason was a vital figure in medieval Europe, a bearer of knowledge in a world before printing presses and easy communication. His sketches bridged the gap between generations, and between distant towns and cities. Each line drawn was a whisper of the ancient secrets that gave birth to those soaring spires. One senses a quiet pride in his craft, mingled with a humility born of knowing how small one's life is compared to the grand cathedrals he helped inspire. He recorded machines that turned wheels, cranes that lifted stone, devices that might seem primitive to us now, but were marvels of their day. His sketches tell of a world alive with invention, ingenuity born from the patient hands of those who toiled without haste. These sketches whisper of a life spent gathering knowledge, a slow, deliberate journey from one building site to another, traveling from town to town, never settling, always observing. Yet, this solitude may have offered a rare freedom to capture the fleeting moments others overlook, to be both participant and witness in a world slowly changing under the rhythm of hammer and chisel. He was not merely a worker, he was a chronicler of his craft, a keeper of secrets etched in stone and wood. He saw the soaring spires and the humble homes, the craftsmen and the clergy, the twisting shapes of arches and the steady hands that shaped them. It is said that he carried this book with him, perhaps wrapped carefully in cloth, as he traveled the length and breadth of medieval France and maybe beyond. The pages reveal his curiosity, his steady hand tracing the outlines of flying buttresses, the delicate patterns of rose windows, the intricate gears of early machines, the air thick with the scent of burning wood and damp stone. His fingers steady, tracing curves and angles, capturing the rhythm of arches that could hold both stone and light. With every sketch, he shared a piece of the ancient wisdom passed down from master to apprentice, each line drawn with care, each note penciled softly in the margins. And he sketched it all. He was a traveler, a mason by trade, though the full extent of his skills remains a gentle mystery. His sketchbook is an intimate window into a world both practical and imaginative. He saw the world not just as it was, but as it might be, understood, preserved, and shared. Imagine him sitting by the firelight in a modest room, his tools laid out carefully, a simple quill, some charcoal, scraps of parchment. He was a man shaped by his time, but also quietly shaping it in return. Villa's life was one of steady discovery. He collected ideas like others might collect coins or rare herbs. He moved slowly but purposefully, driven by a quiet ambition, not the ambition of fame or fortune, but the deep desire to understand and preserve the art of building. His personality remains a gentle enigma. There is also a subtle thread of loneliness in his journey. He was part of a larger story, one of tradition and innovation. And though the details of his life remain elusive, his legacy is clear. So as you imagine Villar tracing his sketches by firelight, think of his steady gaze, his humble purpose. Now, if you will, imagine yourself in a small, quiet room, tucked away in a corner of a medieval town. The air is cool but carries the faint warmth of a nearby hut. As you gaze upon the drawings, you notice how each stroke holds a quiet purpose, a measured intention. On these pages, Villar has drawn them from every angle. Tall, angular frames of timber with thick ropes coiled and looped around wooden pulleys. You can almost hear the subtle creak of the wheels turning under the steady pull of human strength, the faint groan of beams settling under weight. Circles nested within circles, petals unfolding in symmetrical grace, and delicate tracery forming patterns that balance light and shadow. Villar's sketches show how each segment fits seamlessly with the next, forming a lattice that will one day cradle brilliant stained glass that captures the sun's rays and transforms them into a kaleidoscope of colors. The drawings reveal a harmony between wood and rope, a balance that allows enormous stones to rise slowly, inch by inch, up the scaffolds. These drawings feel alive with possibility. Lines with flowing manes seem to hold the strength of centuries. A small fox curls softly on one page, its tail wrapped around its body in a gesture of calm alertness. Alongside the drawings, faint scribbles of wonder appear, almost like whispered questions. I wonder if the light will dance as the sun moves. You can almost feel the cool metal of a compass held between Villar's fingers, the steady pressure as its point traces perfect circles on parchment. Beside these are notes on balance and proportion, reflections on harmony. The building must breathe with the light, move with the wind, and stand firm against the earth. I wonder if the angels know the sound of the hammer. One line reads, "A gentle thought that bridges the human and the divine." Another muses softly, "Will the stones whisper the prayers of those who build?" Pointed arches curve gracefully, ribbed vaults interlock in complex webs. Villar's hand measures and marks the subtle curves that transfer weight. The arch is designed not only to hold stone, but to invite breath and light into the sacred space. Each page is a journey, a slow unfolding of knowledge, patience, and care. They remind us that, even in a world without haste, great beauty could be born, shaped by hands that knew the language of stone and silence. Through these drawings, Villar de Honnecourt's presence reaches across centuries, inviting you to walk with him through a world where every stone was lifted by slow hands, every curve shaped by quiet thought, every detail drawn with love. If the colors will sing in the morning's quiet, but their spirit the living essence that the builders hope to breathe into stone. The workshop falls silent, the drawings resting once more in shadow. And yet, through these quiet lines, the cathedral's slow, steady heartbeat continues on, enduring echo of faith, patience, and quiet wonder. These drawings remind us that the cathedral was not just stone and mortar, but a tapestry of life, faith, and nature interwoven. These gentle musings remind us that behind every careful measurement and line drawn was a man who paused to imagine the living beauty that would emerge. It is as if Villa's steady hand, guided by patience and quiet curiosity, is still there, moving slowly and thoughtfully over the page, line by careful line, one shape at a time. The only light comes from a single flickering candle, its flame dancing gently, casting long, wavering shadows that play upon the rough wooden walls. Before you lies an open notebook, fragile, yellowed with age, its edges softened by time and many careful hands. This is Villa de Honnecourt's sketchbook, a silent companion through decades of travel and thought. The pages feel rough beneath your fingers, a delicate blend of parchment and vellum, their texture whispering stories of countless days spent tracing lines, capturing shapes, and recording ideas. We begin with the cranes. They're enormous wooden machines that seem to grow from the earth itself, strong and unyielding. Picture the crane's arm extending out like a patient hand reaching toward the sky, its slow, deliberate movements mirrored in the measured strokes of the sketch. Villa's lines capture not just the shape, but the very essence of this slow motion, the tension in the ropes, the weight borne by the wooden wheels, the quiet determination of those who operate it. In the dim candlelight, these drawings seem to come alive, a frozen choreography of man, machine, and stone. Turning the page, your eyes fall upon the intricate diagrams of rose windows. Here, geometry reveals its quiet majesty. Soft pencil guidelines trace the framework beneath these patterns, lines drawn, erased, and drawn again, an artist's quiet pursuit of perfection. As you turn the pages further, vault and arch templates appear, blueprints for the soaring ceilings that will lift eyes and hearts alike. Imagine the faint echo of hammer against chisel in a distant workshop, steady and rhythmic. Among the architectural plans, you find studies of carved sculptures, faces frozen in quiet reverence, animals poised as guardians, each rendered with delicate care. The strokes that capture these creatures are soft, yet deliberate, as if Villa sought to preserve not just their forms scattered through the notebook, are sketches of measuring tools, compasses, rulers, square simple instruments whose quiet precision made the grandest designs possible. These words flow like a soft current beneath the technical drawings, a quiet reminder that the art of building was a dance between science and spirit, between earthbound labor and divine inspiration. As you linger on each page, you notice the faintest of personal marks, scribbled verses, tentative questions, the occasional drawing crossed out and redrawn. These quiet reflections feel like whispered breaths in the stillness of night, invitations to pause and consider the unseen hopes and dreams folded into every line and curve. Imagine holding this book in the flickering candlelight, the world outside hushed and still. Line by careful line, one shape at a time, these sketches carry the weight of centuries, a testament to the steady, unhurried rhythm of medieval craft. As the candle's flame flickers lower and the quiet night deepens, the pages close softly, leaving behind a stillness that is both ancient and timeless. Now, imagine yourself setting out at first light, the sky just beginning to soften from deep navy to a pale wash of dawn. The air is cool and crisp, carrying the faint scent of damp earth and morning mist. His journey is one of both purpose and patience, marked by the steady rhythm of footsteps, the gentle creak of wooden wheels, and the soft murmur of rivers flowing alongside the path. Before you stretches a long, winding road, sometimes packed dirt, sometimes just a ribbon of crushed stone threading through sleepy villages and open fields that glisten with dew. In dry weather, the dust rises in lazy clouds, drifting like faint wisps of smoke against the pale sky. When rains come, the earth softens, turning into a thick, sticky mud that clings to boots and wagon wheels alike. The scent of roasting meat and fresh bread fills the air, wrapping around the weary traveler like a soft blanket. He might sit quietly by the hearth, a soft scratch of charcoal or ink on parchment breaking the hush. As the first pale light spreads across the horizon, Villa would find a small clearing or the steps of a village church to sit and sketch, his breath visible in the chill. Around him, the world is still. Birds begin their soft songs, and the distant tolling of bells drifts on the air, marking the start of another day. Villar's gaze would trace the lines of bridges, the shapes of arches spanning the currents, details to be remembered, sketched later in the stillness of night. The flicker of firelight casts long shadows, and the stone walls seem to hold the warmth and stories of countless travelers who came before. The road can be long and wearying, but it is also a place of learning and connection. Villar's sketches grow richer with each mile, his notebook becoming a map of both the physical journey and the unfolding ideas held within. Outside, the wheels of carts creak gently as they settle for the night, and the steady rhythm of hooves. His footsteps echo softly on ancient paths, carrying with them the steady, unhurried heartbeat of a life spent walking, watching, and quietly shaping the future. Feeling the slow pulse of the road beneath your feet, the same pulse that carried Villar onward, ever onward, through the vast and unfolding tapestry of medieval Europe. You can almost feel the weight of each step, the slight resistance as the ground gives way beneath. The soft rustle of small creatures moving through underbrush punctuates the quiet, and the steady crunch of feet on fallen leaves blends into the gentle chorus of nature. This is the life of Villar de Honnecourt, master mason and moving slowly but surely across the varied landscapes of 13th century Europe, and sometimes through narrow mountain passes where the cold wind whispers through pines and firs. Villar's steps are those of a careful observer, a man who listens to the world through both sight and silence. Each new town offers fresh sounds, the murmur of unfamiliar languages, the clatter of market stalls setting up for the day, the faint smell of wood smoke mingled with baking bread. His pack is heavy with tools and parchment, carefully wrapped to protect the precious sketches and notes that are his constant companions. With each pause, he unrolls his book beneath a spreading tree or by a quiet stream, drawing patiently as the light shifts across the page. The air here is thinner, sharper, scented with the resin of evergreens and the crispness of high altitudes. The rocky paths are uneven, and each careful step is measured, steady, deliberate. The roads he travels are dust roads, their surfaces uneven, stirred with every passing cart or As the days grow longer with the seasons, Villar's journey leads him through valleys veiled in mist, over gentle hills lined with Picture the worn leather of Villar's boots, creased from many miles, and the soft rustle of his cloak as it brushes against the rough stones along the roadside. Evenings bring a different kind of comfort. Imagine the warm glow of a fire inside a wood smoke-filled inn, the low murmur of voices mingling with the clinking of wooden mugs. In these moments, Villar's world slows even further. Mornings are often the quietest time on the road. Imagine waking before the sun, the cool air brushing gently against your face. The rhythm of life on the road is slow but steadier, measured pace that allows time for observation, for learning, and for quiet reflection. At river crossings, you might hear the splash of oars or the creak of a ferry boat, the water flowing relentlessly beneath. Sometimes, his travels bring him to the edge of forests, where shafts of light filter through thick leaves, and the air carries the scent of damp moss and pine needles. Throughout it all, there is a sense of He travels not simply as a worker of stone, but as a chronicler of craft, a witness to the evolving art and science of building. And so, as dusk falls once again and the stars begin to pierce the dark velvet sky, you find yourself resting beside a campfire or inside a modest inn, as the dust settles softly on Villar de Honnecourt's sketches. It's worth imagining the quiet journey they took across the centuries, carried not on grand pedestals or heralded by trumpets, but through the steady hands and careful eyes of generations of builders. His notebook was not a famous masterpiece displayed in gilded halls. Rather, it was a humble companion, a trusted guide that moved quietly from one mason's workshop to another, a shared tool in the slow, patient craft of cathedral building. Imagine the worn pages, their edges softened by time, gently turning in dim rooms where flickering candlelight pools in small circles of warmth. In the great network of medieval guilds, where knowledge was often closely guarded, this sketchbook offered a rare glimpse into the mind of a master, an open window onto the methods behind soaring spires and delicate rose windows. The afternoon light filters through narrow windows, casting soft rectangles on rough wooden tables scattered with tools, chisels, compasses, bullets. Perhaps Villar paused sometimes to write a quiet question, a gentle wonder. These fleeting thoughts had a human touch, a moment of curiosity in the midst of technical detail. They remind us that behind every line is a thoughtful observer, a patient learner, a man who saw the world with both precision and quiet. Amidst the quiet murmur of work, Villar's notebook lies open, its pages yellowed but vivid. The careful lines and the patient knowledge they contain endure. They live on in the continued craft of builders who come after, in the silent beauty of arches that hold light like a prayer, in the carved faces watching over cloisters, and in the delicate tracery of rose windows catching the morning sun. Apprentices gather around, pointing out the subtle curves of a flying buttress, the careful geometry of a ribbed vault. It is a reminder that great things often arise not from a single grand act, but from many small, steady ones. And with this gentle reflection, we prepare now to leave the world of Villar and step slowly into the next chapter, and where secrets lie hidden within the stones themselves, waiting patiently to be discovered. There is a sense of reverence, but also of humble practicality. This is the bread and butter of their craft, the foundation on which their labor rests. It was not about personal glory, but about the shared endeavor of creation, a common language written in lines and measurements. Here, apprentices, young men learning the art and science of stone trace. The careful lines again and again, their fingers stained faintly with charcoal and dust, but in the very stones that rise skyward, catching the light and casting shadows in great cathedrals that would stand for centuries. The stone may weather, slowly wearing away under rain and wind, but the knowledge captured in those drawings endures etched, not in rock but in the minds and hands of those who continued the work. The rhythm of their pencil strokes is steady, soothing, a ritual of learning and repetition. Like the cathedrals themselves, they were built to last not as fleeting achievements, but as lasting contributions to a collective endeavor. The book was a silent partner in the creation of places meant to inspire wonder and reflection, spaces where light and stone come together in quiet harmony. Line by careful line, one shape at a time, they might murmur softly to themselves, following Villar's delicate drawings of arches, cranes, and sculptural faces. Instead, it whispers softly through the ages, carried in the breath of the wind that slips through stained glass windows, and the steady rhythm of hammer against chisel, in the cool shadows of vaulted ceilings. It is a legacy felt more than seen, known more than spoken. In these quiet workshops, senior masons lean over the pages with a measured nod. These drawings are familiar friends, tools shaped by necessity and experience, carrying knowledge handed down from master to apprentice like a whispered tradition. The notebook's pages hold more than mere designs, they hold the essence of patience, the understanding that building a cathedral is not a race, but a slow unfolding, measured by seasons, by sunlight and shadow. Villar's sketches traveled along dusty roads, carried in the satchels of traveling masons who moved from town to town, spreading ideas and techniques. Picture, if you will, a master mason's workshop in a small town somewhere in medieval France. This notebook was more than a collection of drawings. It was a repository of shared wisdom, drawings intertwined with scribbled verses, reflections softly penned in the margins. Over time, Villar's legacy unfolded not in statues or grand monuments to his name. His sketches became a living transmission, passed from master to apprentice, a thread woven through the fabric of medieval craftsmanship. There is something profoundly gentle about this legacy. It is not shouted from rooftops or carved into marble plaque. And so, as you imagine yourself closing the worn leather cover of Villar's sketchbook, consider this quiet truth. While the stones of the cathedrals may one day crumble, his legacy is a testament to the quiet power of shared knowledge, to the patience and dedication of countless hands working across time. As the candlelight flickers softly on the worn pages of Villar de Honnecourt's sketchbook, we pause. The quiet marks and delicate drawings rest gently before you as a testament not to fame or fortune, but to the enduring power of patient craftsmanship and humble curiosity, but whispered quietly from one hand to another, from one generation to the next. Villar's sketches were never meant to be a masterwork displayed in galleries. Instead, they served as a toolkit, a guide, a shared language among builders who shaped the soaring cathedrals that still reach skyward centuries later. His work embodies humility, a gentle reminder that greatness often lives in the small, thoughtful acts, repeated day after day. The invisible thread between you and Villar is woven through these shared acts of mindfulness and care, a reminder that human endeavor, however modest, builds across time. In this stillness, we can almost hear the slow, steady rhythm of a life, lived in quiet dedication. A life spent tracing lines not for the spotlight, but for the unseen beauty that grows in time. Just as a single stone supports a soaring arch, so to do small acts of creation and sharing uphold the delicate balance of human culture. Vilar's work was different yet intertwined with those efforts. While others toiled with muscle and sweat, he contributed with quiet observation and delicate lines. Both kinds of work are vital threads in the tapestry of the medieval cathedral's creation. You are now a keeper of this calm legacy, a silent witness to the humility and care that built worlds from stone, and move forward into the stones themselves, the silent witnesses of history, carved with care, holding stories in their quiet depths. The builders shaped stone with calloused hands, while Vilar shaped ideas with a steady hand and a patient eye. The world Vilar inhabited moved slowly, marked by seasons and shadows, much like the rhythm of your breath now. His sketches remind us that even in the quietest acts, there is meaning. Even in patience, there is power. Together, their contributions create not just buildings, but legacies where silence speaks, and where generations find a shared sense of awe. His drawings are a kind of echo, a soft voice that reminds us how knowledge is never lost but carried gently forward. There is something profoundly calming about this kind of legacy, the kind that isn't carved in bold letters on grand monuments. Imagine Vilar walking slowly along the dusty roads of medieval Europe, his satchel filled with parchment, and charcoal eyes tracing the curves of a flying buttress or the delicate pattern of a rose window. He sketched, he shared not out of desire for fame, but from a quiet ambition to preserve and pass on knowledge. Though you live in a world of screens and rapid change, your quiet attention to this story links you to his slow journey. His patience in sketching, his meticulous care in observing shapes and structures, echoes in your own moments of stillness, your own gentle curiosity. In his patience, there is a kind of grace, a surrender to time and process, a trust that these lines, these lessons, would ripple outward, touching builders he would never meet. This kind of humility has a soft power. It asks nothing of us but to notice, to appreciate the unseen hands and minds behind the great works of history. It invites us to slow down, to breathe in the calm persistence of generations who shaped the world, not with loud declarations, but with steady care. And here, as you listen now, there is a tender connection between you and Vilar stretching across centuries and cultures. Perhaps, in your own way, you engage in a similar rhythm, whether through the careful work of your hands, the attentive study of ideas, or the quiet reflection that fills your moments before sleep. We can think of Vilar's sketches as stones in a vast cathedral, not grand or polished on their own. And so, as you rest here in the quiet glow of this story, let the thought settle softly, that your presence, your listener, becomes part of that slow, patient flow. This reflection also brings a gentle contrast to the physical labor we first met, the hammering, the dust, the aching muscles. There is a spiritual rhythm here, a steady dance between the tangible and the intangible. And now, as the day draws to a close in your own world, let these reflections bring a sense of peace. So, with these gentle thoughts resting in your mind, we prepare to leave Vilar's candlelit pages behind. Now, as night folds softly around the quiet towns and cloisters of the 13th century, we begin to let go of the path we've followed. The dust settles behind Vilar de Honnecourt's quiet footsteps, slow and gentle. The last strokes of his charcoal lines fade into parchment, and his notebook closes, not with finality, but with the stillness of something carefully set aside. You can feel the hush settle in, like dusk settling over a stone courtyard. Not just sketches of flying buttresses and turning wheels, but something quieter, a patience, a reverence, a sense of movement without hurry, of knowledge passed without noise. The wagons have stopped. The road has emptied. The firelight in roadside inns burns low. Even the builders and scribes, with calloused fingers and tired shoulders, have retired to sleep, their breath slowing under coarse wool blankets. And you are still here, resting quietly in the warmth of this long-forgotten rhythm, not ominous, but still sacred in their own way. Places that hold not noise, but memory, not answers, but questions. The life of Vilar, though distant and softly drawn, has left something behind. It is into that quiet that we now drift. The sketches dissolve like mist, and in their place, the stones begin to speak. You see, every cathedral is a library, but not of books, of symbols, carvings, shapes, made with intention, but often left unexplained. The faces hidden behind vines, the spiral stairs that descend into nowhere. These are not accidents. They are whispers, Messages passed in silence, from builder to builder, century to century. Now, we slip beneath the stones into the darker, colder places, carved in corners, buried in crypts, painted behind veils of incense and candle smoke. So let your breath slow, and your thoughts loosen like soft laces at the end of the day. The next chapter lies not in what was built, but in what was hidden. When you're ready, we'll go quietly together into the silence of stone. Whispers in stone, the walls are not blank. They were never meant to be. And now, as your eyes begin to adjust to the dim stillness of the nave, you begin to see it too. What seemed like plain stone at first, grey, cold, unyielding now, begins to shimmer with quiet life, like something remembered rather than newly discovered. Carved into the margins, where wall meets column, where arch meets vault, are creatures, shapes, symbols, faces, not loud or imposing, not shouting for attention, but waiting to be seen. There's a rhythm to it, a patience. These are not decorations in the modern sense, not merely pretty things. These are the margins of a long and silent book, a book carved in stone. Imagine a mason who'd drawn low, hunched over his work as the cathedral grew slowly behind him, his hands wrapped in linen, fingers calloused and stiff. No one knows. He never left a note, only the carving itself, not an angel. Along the base of one pillar is a procession of small figures, barely as tall as your hand. One holds a lute, another, curiously, balances a basket on his head. A third seems to be reading a scroll upside down. But a face, everything, from the highest altar to the lowest floor tile, was part of a symbolic order, a system of signs that carried layered meanings, crooked and grimacing. Its tongue sticks out just slightly. Its eyes seem to follow, not accuse, more than warnings. They were also boundaries, symbols of what lay outside the sacred, pushed to the very edge of the divine space. And perhaps, like all boundaries, they served as reminders. This is holy ground. They seem to say that out there is not. Some were moral lessons: be wary of the sly, honor the brave. Some were allegories from bestiaries and scripture. And some, perhaps, were simply quiet amusements. The signature humor of a stoneworker left without permission. It's not frightening. The chisel in his grip worn smooth with use. He is not young, but not old. And in a world where perfection was reserved for heaven, perhaps that was their purpose, to reflect back our own strangeness, to let the faithful see not only the saints above, not decapitated, weary. Scholars believe it may represent a headache, the timeless complaint of long days and little rest. Another carving, in Chartres, shows a pig playing the harp. Beneath it, a mouse dancing. It holds a tiny scene, a man hiding behind a bush, while another, possibly a monk, searches nearby. But the flawed, wrinkled, mocking faces we carry inside. His eyes squint in the dim afternoon light filtering through an open arch. By the wealthy donors, they sat too high or too far in shadow. On the wall, half obscured by a pillar's shadow, is a carving of a child curled beneath a bird's wing. The wing is smooth, broad, encompassing. Only the builders saw them. Perhaps only once, and then they were lost to the architecture. He is carving not a saint. In symbols, in cycles, in the textures of life, what they feared, what they loved. It's a language of curves and corners, of vines and beasts, and faces too small to notice unless you bend down and look closely. A tale told at the evening fire, carved here into immortality. Why, in the high medieval world, the line between sacred and mundane was not always sharp. In fact, it was often blurred deliberately. So this cathedral, and so many others like it, speaks in a language you cannot hear with your ears. A lion curled around its own tail, a fox holding a scroll, a knight wrestling with a snail. What did they mean? You begin to walk slowly now, your feet silent on the cold flagstones. There are no labels, no explanations, just stone and time. It was a world of stone and silence, of dust and devotion, and within that devotion, even the smallest flourish held meaning. High above, tucked beneath the arch of a window, a grotesque figure crouches, mouth wide, eyes bulging in an eternal grimace. These grotesques, and their more famous cousins, the gargoyles, were more than waterspouts. And yet, there is something oddly comforting about them too. Something human. They are imperfect, silly, even foolish. As you pass beneath an archway, you spot a column, capital the topmost block, where the column meets the ceiling. You smile. Quietly, it could be a biblical reference. Or it might simply be a moment of play, a mason's memory from his village. You see, many of the workers who built these cathedrals were illiterate in the formal sense. They couldn't read Latin, but they read in a different way. Their literacy was visual, spatial, generational. They carved what they knew. In a cathedral in northern Spain, someone carved a figure of a man holding his head in his hand. Was it satire, a fable, or just a moment of levity in a world often weighed down by struggle? No carving stands alone. They were part of a system of visual echo chamber, a conversation between the sacred and the mundane, between heaven and earth. Imagine how many of these carvings went unnoticed by the clergy. But they're still here, waiting in the corners. Look close enough, and you'll find faces looking back. You pause in a side chapel now. The light has dimmed, and the stone takes on a bluish hue in the late afternoon. You don't know what it means, and maybe you don't need to. In this world, some truths were shown, not explained. Some messages were meant to be felt, not decoded. So the language of carvings remains silent, unreadable to most, but deeply legible to the soul. Like lullabies in stone. When you're ready, we'll continue. There is more hidden beneath these walls. Deeper mysteries, older echoes. And so, in the next part, we'll descend into the crypts, into the cool, silent bones of the cathedral itself. Echoes beneath the stones now. You descend, slowly, step after step. The spiral staircase wimps beneath your feet like an ancient seashell, its walls pressing softly inward, guiding your path. Each footfall is swallowed by the dark, replaced by the faint sound of dripping water echoing in the curve ahead. Light from above dims quickly. Only the amber glow of a single candle follows a soft companion in the hush. They support low arches that gently embrace the crypt's quiet spaces. Small chapels curve inward like folded arms, each a quiet refuge beside the next. These stones were not built to dazzle, but to endure, to cradle memory and mystery beneath the cathedral's proud facade. The left-behind world above bright vaults, stained glass, bustling crowds feels distant. Here, the stones are older, thicker, more deliberate. They uphold centuries of silence, faint prayers, and unspoken farewells. There is no hurry. Time here pauses, stretches, and breathes deeply. The remains sealed beneath modest altars, revered in silence. These containers hold holy soil shipped from sacred lands, fragments of parchment inscribed with prayers, or relics of saints cradled from distant shrines. No name, no note, just a silent offering, resting in faith. We cannot be certain why, yet their purpose remains unspoken, but powerful, belonging to faith, not to fame. Elsewhere, similar boxes contain vials of Jerusalem earth, an invitation to bring the sacred home. Concealed beneath the local stone, other crypts host royalty sarcophagi carved with dignity and quiet. But many spaces remain unoccupied, their floors polished, smooth by centuries experienced but unmarked by fame. Cool, still air greets you as you cross the threshold into this subterranean world. They only invite reverent conjecture. They lie still, waning. Other crypts were designed for royalty, stately stone coffins laid with ceremonial dignity, of stillness that holds more than it shows. Thick columns stand like timeless sentinels, deeply rooted in the earth. His breath soft, just the gentle rise and fall of devotion in the darkness. It casts patterns of light and shadow across worn reliefs, illuminating one saint's face before fading again. It does not demand attention. It whispers comfort. The columns are broad and firm. The ceilings are low, almost pressing. Here no grand gestures, only grounded faith and deep memory. Every sound settles, a hushed drip from above, a distant footstep, a shift in fabric. Yet even these are soft, integrated into the crypt's rhythm. The slight chill of the stone no longer feels cold. It feels receptive, a memory bringing touch, depth, stillness, a sense that life and death, faith and forgetfulness, exist closer together than you ever felt before. Light filters through narrow grills above, thin shafts pooling softly on the floor. It reveals carved alcoves, stone effigies, biblical scenes fading in candlelight. Then it withdraws, leaving bare stone again. They hold potential stories unsung, lives unrecorded, dreams unfulfilled. Faint voices, drifts, silent prayers, sighs, creaking benches. Your steps toward the spiral stair are steady and you carry with you the crypt's Husha whisper embedded inside your chest. below the breath. Their quiet emptiness is as purposeful as stone laid intentionally in silence. The only light, the candle flickers across the carved altar, reflecting on the stone's cool surface. You become part of the hush. Your breath slows, your thoughts deepen, peaceful in the presence of such enduring quiet. The scent of beeswax blends with the earth beneath his knees. A prayer is not spoken, but felt, an offering held in stillness. A subterranean sanctuary. Pause and imagine a monk kneeling here, perhaps during a still midnight hour, his head bowed. This place is neither empty nor full. It is filled with absence, with memory, with echoes carried in stone. Some crypts hold saints, yet every chamber was built with reverence and intention. Each slab, each column, each arch created to stand against time, to hold what words could not express. Secrets hidden in the walls sometimes. The bones were not alone. Enclosed within the walls, buried beneath floor stones, small lead boxes rest forgotten by most, but never abandoned. In one cathedral in Poland, archaeologists discovered a lead casket hidden below the crypt. A small bird's bone carefully wrapped in red thread. We do not know the names of those who placed these gifts. These mysteries do not demand answers. The weight of stillness. Walking in the crypt, the stone feels heavier around you. Here is no frescoed splendor, no lavish mosaic, only simplicity, only stone, each surface still and steadfast amid centuries of stillness. Bones and memory. Some crypts were built for sainthood, spaces of hushed reverence, carved to honor holy lives. Many crypts remained empty rooms, planned for burials that never came, for memories still unformed. But these empty spaces are not failures, they are possibilities. Standing before one such slab, you sense weight, not burden, but potential. The possibility of memory, of ritual, a monk, and a candle. A flicker catches your eye in a side alcove. A single candle rests on a carved ledge, its flame small but persistent. The candle's flame seems to breathe with brightening, softening. It is not a spectacle, but a gesture of presence. You sense the lingering breath of someone who knelt here long ago, an echo of humanity, wet with devotion. Resting in stillness, you breathe deeply. The silence grows rich, layered and full. Dust drifts like pale motes, dancing in candlelight. Here, in this deep hush, you find rest, not comfort, not cheer, but peace. From below to beyond, after what feels like both seconds and lifetimes, you rise. With each step up, stones lighten. The air warms as you near the vaults above. Slivers of light flicker through narrow windows. Though you emerge into the light, a part of the crypt remains with you, a quiet anchor, a soft echo of stones beneath, a tenderness held in your bones. A cathedral's quiet conversation with the sun. As you step back into the cathedral's vast nave, the air feels different, cooler, yet warmed gently by the shifting sunlight that pours through the towering windows. It breathes with light and shadow, with time and movement. The day's passage is written in the slow dance of sunbeams, tracing long, deliberate arcs across cold stone. At dawn, the morning light seeps softly through narrow lancet windows, thin and pale as the breath of a waking world. It falls like spun gold on the rough-hewn pillars, caressing the worn surfaces with a hesitant touch, barely stirring the deep stillness. The stained glass transforms sunlight into a prism of quiet radiance. Ruby reds, deep sapphires, and glowing ambers mingle and scatter in patterns across the flagstones. It is a visual hymn, a prayer of color and form that requires no voice. The faces of saints and angels, rendered in glass and lead, catch the light and glow from within, as if the spirit of the sun itself has settled behind each pane. With time, the light grows bolder. These moments were subtle celebrations, messages coded in sunlight. A beam might strike a carved hand raised in blessing, or a figure cloaked in prayer, glowing for only a brief instant each year. By midday, the sun reaches its zenith, and brilliant colors flood the interior like a muted choir singing without sound. Builders aligned arches and windows to catch these rays precisely, as if the cathedral itself were watching and waiting for the perfect moment to speak. The cathedral was not merely shelter or decoration. It was a living calendar, a clock of stone and glass designed to mark the passage of days, months, and years. You pause to watch this silent spectacle. The colors rippled gently, painting robes and walls with hues that shift and soften, like a slow-moving river of light. They remind you that this sacred space belonged to all kings and commoners alike, nobles and peasants, the silent and the devout. A slender lancet framed by dark stone, bursting with blues and reds, depicting the serene face of a saint, the lamb at his feet, and a crowd of figures bowed in reverence below. You do not know their names, nor the precise tale they tell. Yet, there is a quiet familiarity, a shared language that speaks across centuries. As the afternoon wanes, shadows stretch longer, reaching out like soft fingers across the floor. The cathedral grows quieter still. Its concentric rings speak of harmony and balance, embodying the divine order believed to govern both heaven and earth. The rose reflects the medieval mind's yearning for perfection, a symbol of cosmic unity, each segment part of a whole greater than itself, and symmetry of one, a perfect circle framed by smaller circles, an intricate tracery, like petals unfolding in slow, eternal motion. The rose window is a prayer in glass, a circle without beginning or end, an endless hymn to creation's quiet rhythm. To stand before the rose window is to experience stillness, to feel time's soft pulse. The cathedral's layout, its aisles, nave, transept, and choir were planned with profound attention to sacred geometry. The ground plan often takes the shape of a cross, grounding the building both spiritually and physically. The brilliant colors fade into dusk's muted palette, and the great stones seem to sigh in the dimming light. The lead lines that hold the fragments together are like calligraphy, tracing outlines and expressions with a deliberate hand. This place was shaped by hands that believed not only in craft, but in meaning. Ratios echoing the harmony of music or the balance found in nature were embedded in the very bones of the building. Pythagorean triangles, the golden ratio, and other sacred measures guided the placement of pillars and vaults. A language not of words, but of image and silence. Like a lullaby sung in stone and color, it encourages your thoughts to drift, to find rest. These windows were designed not for hurried glances, but slow, thoughtful reading texts, meant to be felt as much as seen. Whether this secret code was known to all or only a few matters little, its effect is a calm sense of order, a reassuring balance that soothes the mind as much as the eye. Evening calls the space to rest, inviting stillness and reflection. The cathedral is a clock and calendar. This slow unfolding of light is no accident. The medieval builders who shaped these great stones understood the rhythms of the sun as deeply as a farmer knows the seasons. It is a sanctuary of balance, a refuge from chaos. On certain days, the solstices and equinoxes, light might pierce through a window to illuminate a hidden carving, a small statue, or a delicate arch. The sun became a quiet messenger, revealing secrets tucked into the stonework. Windows, more than glass, a language of light. The stained glass windows are not mere decoration, but stories told in color and form, texts written not in ink, but in light. You gaze upon one such window. Each piece of glass was shaped and fired by hands that believed deeply in its purpose. The scenes encompass scripture, but also touch upon the daily lives of those who worshipped here. The rose window, a bloom of eternal light above the great western entrance. The rose window blossoms like a flower carved from the sky itself. It is not a flower, yet it breathes with the delicacy. This window is more than beauty. It is meditation made visible. Every line, every curve was drawn with reverence and care, measured by geometry and spirit alike. Sacred geometry, the hidden order beneath your feet. Not only the windows, but the very stones beneath your feet carry meaning. Beneath the visible design lies an intricate pattern of proportions inspired by ancient texts and philosophy. This was no mere math. It was a language, a way of weaving faith and form into one seamless whole. A quiet awe, felt in stone and light. You stand, surrounded by stone and glass, feeling a gentle awe, not the kind that startles or overwhelms, but a quiet reverence that settles deep and still. Here, every beam of light, every fragment of glass, every curve and corner was chosen with care and patience. And this quiet awe is an invitation for reflection, for peace, for connection. The cathedral does not demand your attention. It offers it gently. Now, as the light fades and shadows lengthen, you prepare to descend once again, this time, not beneath the stones but into the mysteries carved within them. Soon, we will step closer, look deeper at the hidden symbols, the secret messages whispered quietly in the quiet spaces of the cathedral walls. Quiet signatures in stone before we drift upward again into stained glass and soaring vaults. Let us linger in a different kind of sacred space, one made not of light, but of presence. It's not inscribed in grandeur, but in the small, steady act of marking stones by hand. Ease your eyes downward, away from the arches and carvings, and closer to the individual blocks that form the cathedral's bones. On the unseen faces of walls, hidden beneath reading plaques or behind choir stalls, there are subtle scratches, a triangle with a notch, a half-moon nested within a square, a cross circled with care. These are masons' marksters, silent signatures of builders whose names are otherwise lost to time. A silent record of labor once upon those silent stones. Each mark served a simple but vital purpose: organization and accountability. A particular symbol, a slanted triangle bisected by a horizontal line, has been found on stones in cathedrals across northern France, southern Germany, and Spain. The scholarly consensus suggests one mason journeyed, carrying his labor abroad, carving his symbol into carried blocks at each site. After a mason shaped a stone, he carved his unique symbol onto it. During assembly, foremen counted these marks to track labor, tally wages, or ensure stones reached their rightful place in the structure. They were not carved for decoration. They were carved for accountability and identification, not display. Even as walls rose, many of these symbols ended behind aisles or within joints where the human eye would rarely wander. These symbols formed a private ledger, a way to map effort, block by block. They were never intended for posterity. Yet centuries have passed, and though the foremen are gone and ledgers lost, the marks remain. These marks matured into more than identifiers. They became ghost signatures, whispers of hands working day after day, under scaffold and scaffolding. The stone is cool and slightly smooth from countless touches. Beneath your palm, you feel barely perceptible ridges. There they are to tiny parallel lines, slanted faintly to one side. He arrives at a new construction site, blends into the rhythm of builders, and at day's end, carves his mark again. Your heart softens. This is not decoration, it is memory. Legacy without applause. These marks exemplify a faith in continuity rather than recognition, in the labor rather than the laurels. Yet this carved line is his quiet monument. It is rough, deliberate, a sloped crescent with a slashier tracer. The surface is worn. Similar symbols appear: concentric circles, crooked crosses, stylized letters, each unique symbol representing a different hand, a different mason. Together they create a hidden register, a community of marks carved into the same stones, creating a silent fellowship. Its orientation suggests it was carved early in the day. You feel the weight of that moment: dawn light in a cold workshop, the smell of wet lime, the sound of distant hammers. Each symbol is part of a network, not solitary lines, but elements of a communal craft tradition. Let your gaze drift upward and note. These marks cluster near sections of recent repair, along older aisles, at approach points where masons might pause to check alignment. They are not evenly distributed. They are human in their imperfection, the record of living labor, not factory. A message left without flourish. He may never have paused to record his intention beyond that day's work. Yet, by fidelity to craft, he left something that transcends time. A man shaped this stone. He was real. Let the presence of these hidden identities carry with you as you move into the next still space, one not of anonymous labor, but of whispered power and authority. Each shift in light, each echo of your footstep, is held by stone that remembers. He was here. We cannot say if they prayed before each cut or paused at evening to wash their hands. It becomes presence. We affirm that their work mattered. That legacy is not only given by monuments but by humility, by labor, by quiet insistence carved carefully on stone. A living structure shaped by real hands, real efforts, and real silence. Not out of vanity, but for continuity. I shaped this. I belong. Today, beneath your fingertips, they survive etched in stone, but also in presence. Travel and transmission, they speak of no formal name, no heralded accomplishment. Yet in their quiet anonymity lies a humble truth that the cathedralist grandeur is built by numbers of small decisions, repeated many times over. One of the most fascinating discoveries in modern study of these symbols is how some recur across vast stretches of geography. Imagine him on road and ridge, tools strapped to his shoulder, walking toward an unfamiliar city. Over time, the marks map invisible journeys, paths of craft, legacy, and devotion that pulsed through medieval Europe, unrecorded in any biographers but preserved in stone. Their hidden placement: most marks now rest in places unseen, on the underside of blocks, behind seating, beneath plaster. Yet in recent centuries, as restorations and studies have exposed them, they invite us to slow down, to kneel, to bend toward the ground, to trace a path of presence in hundreds of tiny, deliberate scratches. An encounter with presence. Find a block at knee level near the base of the nav. Press your hand gently against its surface. Your breath slows. You have touched his silent signature. Identity beyond fame. Think of the usual markers of legacy. Statues, inscriptions, tombs carved in marble. These masons' marks offer none of that. This is identity without ego. They remind us that enduring structures are shaped by countless unnamed hands, the patient ones, the steady ones. The presence of absence. Pause near a buttress arch. Beneath it, at the wall's joint, your fingers brush a thin groove. You realize the significance. Presence need not be loud to endure. Even absence recorded softly can echo centuries later. These marks carry the trace of absence and presence at once. The man who carved it might be gone. His voice, forgotten. The community of marks walk a little further. The marks tell us something about medieval workshops, collaboration, seasonal flows, shared systems, and collective knowledge. A quiet reflection. Stand upright. Each step you take is now tethered to those who walked these paths before. The cathedral becomes more than architecture. Legacy etched, not in words, but in stone. We cannot pronounce the names of the masons who carved these marks. But when we touch the marks, now trace them with our fingers, carry them in memory, we do something respectful. We give attention to those unrecorded lives. A gentle exit. Before we turn away from this hidden language, let the quiet settle in. Imagine the mason who carved the mark you touched. He lived long ago. He may never have known. His symbol would remain. That lone mark is a quiet prayer. I existed. I shaped something. I left behind more than silence. Now, let your awareness rise again. A threshold of silence. Now, we stand within the hush of the cathedral, a hush, not just in sound, but in presence. Not merely an echo of activity long ended, but an atmosphere woven into the very mortar and stone. We pressed our fingers to the crypt's cold stones, tracing echoes of bones and relics, remnants of faith and memory. We knelt before carvings, grotesque faces, dancing beasts, hidden saints, each shape charged with meaning, only to those who pause to see. We walked the nave's floor, lit softly by the glow of stained glass, contemplating the rhythm of sacred geometry beneath our feet. We looked downward, and discovered masons' marks, teeny symbols carved quietly, leaving silent testament to human hands and unnamed labor. You may feel it settling around you more softly than a whisper, a presence that holds still. It is a presence shaped by centuries of devotion and labor, by candlelight and chisel, by hymn and prayer. We have wandered through the great halls beneath soaring vaults, where light drips in colored shards. It carries a different stillness, a stillness even among human presence. Your footsteps are hushed against the wood intentionally, sir. No clang of sandal or echoing gavel, only the soft rustle of robes and the faint tap of a foot upon carpeted floor. These experiences have allowed the cathedral to speak to us, not with sermons, but in silence. It is furnished with dark polished wood, a heavy desk, neat stacks of parchment, scrolls tied in, even bundles, seals in metal dishes, quills arranged carefully. A language of patience, of subtlety, of devotion. The small space is lined with shelves of manuscripts, leather-bound tomes whispering scriptural authority, records of church rites, correspondence with other bishops or royalty. You smell beeswax and parchment and faint wood smoke. The air is calm. The chamber door opens with a soft click, and you step inside. We have read its margins. We've listened to what the stones choose to share. A carefully sealed letter lies nearby, perhaps, addressed to a visiting lord, or to the mother-house of a far-off abbey. The presence of such objects reminds one. Here power is anchored in faith, not force. Ink jars ripple with calm potential, each quill poised to carry decisions. The fabric is muted, not bright, meant for contemplation, not spectacle. A small oliphant or incense burner stands on a stand. It may be used in ritual, but now rests cold, awaiting the evening prayer. And yet, there is more. No occupying throne or imposing seat, but a chair of restraint, balanced with humility. It is where he reads petitions, signs, decrees, contemplates complex questions, both spiritual and civic. They concern marriage dispensations, disputes among clergy, political alliances. They involve compassion for the poor and judgment for the impious. He pronounces forgiveness or discipline. He mediates conflict. He counsels the living and remembers the dead. Now it becomes something more. A world of soft authority, cloistered study, prudence practiced in solitude. faith embodied in action as much as ceremony. But here in the chamber, the weight of those arches is felt rather than seen. The cathedral's grandeur lies beyond this. Door the soaring windows, the carved saints, the stained patisbar here. The grandeur yields to stillness. The solid stone has anchored centuries of sermons and processions, but underneath it lies this careful domain of reflection and authority. For beyond this, openness, beyond the chapels, vaults, beyond the crypt's deep hush, beyond the carvings and marks and masonry, there lies another realm. His voice is heard through others. His actions ripple through townships and abbeys, yet the space remains rarely visited by others. It is a quiet seat of authority, used sparingly but decisively. One of stillness, yes, but also of purpose. Cloth drapes over walls, absorbing sound. Velvet upholstery softens echo. Even the step of a foot feels deliberate, restrained with reverence. Where power is shaped not in public spectacle, but in silence. Not in banners or sermons, but in the turn of a quill, the seal of a wax candle. The quiet counsel passed between few ears, built to carry the weight of decisions whose impact might be vast, yet whose voice is soft. Built to offer sanctuary to the spirit, and to shield responsibility behind velvet tapestries and polished desks. Up here in the heart of the building lies the bishop's chamber. Entering the hidden seat of quiet power, the chamber waits behind carved wooden screens, ornate yet private. Fine latticework obscuring your view until you step quietly closer. Velvet tapestries hang heavy on thick walls, muting sound and softening the light. The hush is immediate and deliberate. This is not the lofty nave beneath the central tower. It is not the hush of crypts or chapels. The corridor leading here is narrow, lined with polished oak and edged with rugs. You might see small wax lamps fixed at intervals, their flames steady and low. The quiet interiors of authority the bishop's study is modest in size, perhaps only a half-dozen steps from one wall to another. A small window faces the cloister, offering contemplative light rather than grandeur. It lets in soft morning glow, not torrents of color. Here, silence is not emptiness, it is intention. This chamber is a sanctuary of decisions made with midnight oil. It is where the bishop receives envoys and clerics. The room is not echoing, it is intimate. The weight of stone around it is matched by the weight of padded silence within. Symbols of authority and quiet on the bishop's desk may rest a gently embossed crosiera. Quiet but unmistakable. On shelves behind might be a small reliquary, a simple case of silver and bone of saints, relic once carried in procession, now kept in quiet reverence. A tapestry on one wall may depict a saint's life or a biblical parable. Even the furniture seems crafted with consideration. Simple benches, circled around a small table where counsel might be offered. The weight of stone, matched in quiet responsibility. Above, through screens hidden from public view, the cathedral's vault spreads overhead. The bishop need not preach from here. Decisions here are whispered, about land, about tithes, about disputes between vassals. A final soft reflection as you stand in this chamber. Notice how the silence calms you. This chamber is not built to inspire away, it is built to preserve it, quietly. Now, the cathedral has shown its stories carved in stone and glass. When you are ready, we will step into segment 4. A cloistered world of soft authority, a close walk through carved screens, a meeting of incense and parchment, a space where faith and duty breathe together in silence, where silence holds power. You step across the threshold into the bishop's chambers. The door slides closed behind you, as quietly as a breath drawn in. The stones overhead remain the same as in the nave. Thick, silent, deliberate. The sunlight arrives in splayed beams, soft and diffuse, casting mild patterns on polished oak and woven tapestries. There are no stained glass cruciforms here, only diffused warmth that invites contemplation. But here, rather than echo, they weigh. They bear history and decision. They hold the imprint of counsel and the resonance of quiet deliberation. An open parchment lies atop it, edged with calligraphy and ink still fresh. Beside it, a quill. Its tip trimmed, its plume faintly stained with iron gall. The tools of authority here are simple but precise. The bindings are narrow and neat, crested with faint heraldry, dated in small Latin script. Anno Domini 1247. The significance lies not in adornment, but in purpose. It contains a small fragment of bone or cloth, cared for in black and silver. Its glass front, subdued, Through it passes the pallid morning light, turning the relic into a dim ember. It is not ornate, but its presence is profound, an anchor between divine favor and ecclesiastical authority. The wick, trimmed exactly, awaits dusk's arrival. Soon, as outside light fades, a small flame will glow within. It will cast amber, forgiving shadows across seal-pressed letters and parchment bundles. The lines written in the bishop's own hand enunciate decisions made in solitude, absolutions granted, disputes mediated, directives sent for distant abbeys. The rest of the stone is covered by mats and quiet pads, cushioning footsteps. These rugs muffle sound so that those who enter are admitted not abruptly, but almost The door opens with a soft click on quiet hinges. Questions are posed as soft inquiries. May I present a matter of tithes, your grace? Or, I seek your counsel on disputes among the layfolk. The visitor bows, slips onto a simple bench. No fanfare, no heraldry, only restrained courtesy. The bishop nods and gestures to another chair. Words are chosen deliberately. The vaulted ceiling lies above youth, the same architectural arch that protects the nave above, now experience from within. But here, in this small chamber, you feel its pressure as a silent presence. The weight of stone above merges with the weight of responsibility around you. Authority is given shape by structure. There is no raising of voice. Instead, reflection holds the space, demanding attention without imposing cause. It balances in the corner of the desk. Its form is refined, yet subtle. Wrought iron clasping gold leaf, deliberate curves hinting at the shepherd's crook. It depicts a saint, seated under a tree, eyes downcast, fingers gently scrolling through a book. No dramatic narrative, no color explosion, just quiet contemplation. The fabric absorbs sound. They wait until staff dismisses others, then kneel before the desk. The bishop removes his gloves, his hand moves in blessing. He questions softly. The answer arrives, gentle as dawn. The peasant rises, quiet, then departs. In the hush, he carries away both blessing and burdens. Visitors have departed. The chamber breathes calm. Even the air feels still. Not publicized, not recorded in chronicles, but changing lives. The unseen influence is present such that service, governance, and prayer converge here, in quiet authority. Feel the hush in your hair. Mute yourself, breathing with the softness around you. Hear no distant organ, no echo of feet on stone, only the still heartbeat of this chamber. Each signature anchors forgiveness or jurisdiction. Tapestries quiet the walls. The cathedral is one organism. From the dusty stalls to the calm authority beneath, a slow ledger of mercy and care, held in wax seals and trembling flame. Footsteps on the rug feel softer. Voices are lowered. He removes his mitre, rests it on a stand. We will move into the hidden chapel and cloister as quietway a space where prayer and power are woven into every stone. Shaded by vine-grown cloisters and shaped by still devotion, sits, opens a codex or missal. He reads scripture in muted tones not aloud, but within. It speaks softly, guidance, service, and care. Instantly, the cathedral's resounding hush transforms into something deeper, a curated quiet, shaped by intention rather than atmosphere. Not proclaimed in trumpets, but practiced in silence. It is a stillness where even a whisper seems to carry. Pause at its frame. A final glance. The desk, empty parchments, silent tools of power softly ordered in quiet discipline. The space is modest, barely 10 or 12 paces across, yet precisely suffused with meaning. A narrow window just above chest-height filters in daylight. Its glass is plain, pale, offering gentle illumination without spectacle. The desk and its at the room's center rests a long, dark wooden desk. It is sturdy and unadorned, but cared for with subtle reverence. Next to the parchment sits an inkstand, black and glass-backed, its surface still smeared with faint flecks of dried ink. A small bronze crosier curved gently at its top is pressed upright in its polished holder. It stands quiet but potent, a symbol of pastoral responsibility, not spectacle. Shelves of ink and faith along one side of the room. Low shelves hold vellum scrolls and bound volumes. A reliquary modest, yet sacred, rests in a niche. Tapestries of quiet meditation. The west wall holds a tapestry woven in deep burgundy, muted blue, and gilded thread. Every layer of the chamber is designed to still motion intoning, symbolically that within these walls, every word matters. Every pause is full. A light measured, not celebrated. A slender oil lamp hangs on one wall, its brass arm curved in restraint. There is no chandelier here, nor bright gilt. Even the lamp is modest, a carefully trimmed flame to guide thought, not brilliant. Footsteps in softness, the floor is thickly rugged near the desk. Meltones of woven wool in dull gold and forest green. Voices hovering in silence. A visitor arrives eventually, a monk from the abbey, or a traveling envoy bearing petitions. They speak quietly, not to hide, but to honor the tone of the chamber. Answers are gentle but firm. Within each word lies weight. Each pause, each picturing breath, is part of decision weaving. Gravity, understone, look up. Though you cannot see the soaring arches beyond the screen, you sense their continuity. Routine of prayer and parchment at midday. The bishop retreats from mass in the nave to this quiet room. Later, he might take up a petition for her service to the poor. He whispers while writing responses. Each flourish of quill is guided by conscience. He inscribes entries in the register of absolutions, blesses homes, records marriages, each task more spiritual than procedural. One might say it feels bureaucratic, but here it is a ritual. Slow, intentional, reverent, discretion and devotion. In the outer corridor, the bishop may receive a humble peasant seeking absolution, an exercise in stillness as dusk deepens. The lamp is lit, the chamber softens further, the air cooling, shadows deepen across rugs and parchment. Ink jars glint dimly. The bishop might sit for a final hour of prayer, eyes closed, hands folded. There is nothing urgent here, only the weight of many small acts repeated. Reflection of purpose. You might now sit in the empty chair. Let each detail become tactile in your senses. The faint smell of beeswax on the lamp, the ink damps in the air, the gentle hush of the tapestry as it diffuses warmth. Notice the contrast. Outside is cathedral's majesty. Here is quiet majesty of purpose, not constructed in spectacle, but in service. As you rise, walk with intentional caution toward the door. Take one breath. Let the chamber's hush settle in your lungs like calm incense. Preparing to step out. When you're ready, and we will step outward through carved lattice screens into cloistered corridors. A path woven in silence and stone. You step through the carved wooden screen beyond the bishop's chamber. The latch closes with soft precision, shutting behind you as completely as a mindful breath. Instantly, the chamber's quiet remains, but now it becomes part of something larger. The cloister pathway, the hidden artery of the cathedral's contemplative life. The corridor before you is narrow and vaulted. Pale daylight filters in through tall lancet windows set high above. Their glass uncolored or faintly tinted enough to bathe the stone in serene light, but not so bright as to demand attention. You walk barefoot upon well-worn flagstones, each step soft and deliberate, as though you were walking not across earth, but into memory. And there by ancient tapestries, their colors muted with age-deep burgundies, soft greens, resting just inside shadow. The air is cool, touched with limestone, softened by wood polish and years of incense drift. You detect also the faint echo of extinguished candles, the memory of prayers softly breathed into corners, buried in the stones themselves. The hues are pale green, soft coral, muted, amber colors chosen not for brilliance, but for calm devotion. A single stubbed candle sits in an iron holder, dripped wax pooled at the edge. Beside it lies a small bowl of holy salt and a plain kneeler, of wood, its surface smooth from centuries of bowed heads. The stone walls are, the ceiling, vaulted gently, seems carved to cradle presence rather than impress. Below it, faint Latin script reads, Solitudo et fides solitude and faith. The inscription is simple, understated but glowing softly as light shifts on stone. Along one wall, you notice a fragment of fresco, a vine winding gently upward, its painted leaves curling in a silent spiral that seems to echo the stone ribs overhead. Each alcove contains a small chapel of its own. One holds a plain stone font, trimmed by time's gentle erosion. Another holds a statue smooth and headless, perhaps once of a saint. It welcomes the faintest breath as if it carries prayer. Here, petition and reflection breathe gently against the walls. This is not ceremony. It is communion without sound. The chapel exists not to impress, but to invite and also to comfort. A few wooden benches invite kneeling or silent repose. The candle's glow flickers gently, casting yawned shadows, breathing life into quiet matter. You walk toward the door like someone leaving a dream, slower, softer, grounded in hush. There is no hurry here, only rhythm. Each step a soft cadence along smooth stone. You sense that even your thoughts must slow to honor the stillness. Here, in this hush, devotion lingers as presence. The light through the windows drips sideways, touching vines and tapestries. Dust motes swirl lazily in beams, carrying echoes of incense and footsteps lost to time. Stone from floor to ceiling resonates with the hush of centuries. Your presence completes the loop not as a visitor, but as a participant in tradition. Each inhalation shapes the next step. Each step echoes slow faith. The world of stone and light becomes less distant, from monumental to intimate. You recognize the cathedral's architecture, shaped not only for spectacle, but for silence. A place of parchment, ink, low lamps, and the slow shaping of soul in silent study. You sense that authority is not only served by bells and banners, but by parchment and prayer. Yet, even in decay, the space feels sanctified, and small symbols of the lamb and staff. You find a polished oak door reinforced with wrought iron bands, etched with creeping vines. It opens quietly into a space you can almost feel before seeing. Soft light, measured stillness, a gentle hush. You may sit, knees pressing against the smooth wood, hands folded, breathing steady and soft. Feel a subtle pulse, like the memory of hands that once rested there in devotion. You inhale. The scent of limestone warmed by daylight, candle smoke, dusky wood. Sounds are quiet. You may hear distant water dripping or the careful creak of a door behind tapestries. Some power lies in hush. Quiet structures carry weight. You may feel momentarily suspended between past and present, prayer and pause. You may stand, arms at your sides, senses attuned to subtle changes, a mote of dust drifting in the candor circle, a breeze from the hidden lancet, the faint pulse of silence. You may sit. If you choose, close your eyes. Let the hush wrap around you. Perhaps the faint hush of distant cloister footsteps, or the distant drone of a monk's chant in memory. You remain still. Time lingers. Presence deepens. The cloister walk. A corridor of stillness. The walls of the cloister walkway are plain, built of smoothly hewn stone. Edged here, the cathedral's monastic life once animated this cloister. Now, it is animated by your quiet steps. Side benches nestled beside alcoves invite silent rest. The arch into the hidden chapel at the end of the walkway, beneath an arch carved with traced vines. You cross the threshold into the hidden chapel. It is small, no more than 12 paces across and lit by faint stained glass panes high on the wall. At the far wall stands the altar, a raised stone slab, carved with simple lines, unadorned, dignified. Silence here is not emptiness, it is consciousness. Symbols of quiet devotion. Above the altar, carved into the stone without color or gilding, is a small glyph, a circle with a cross, extending outward perhaps, the sign of the cathedral, patron saint. Perhaps a reminder of spiritual unity. There are no elaborate decoration, only space meant for quiet prayer. You kneel if you wish or linger standing. If eyes close, you may hear the silence amplify. A private pause, minutes may pass, or hours. In the hush, chronology dissolves. If you whisper, your words seem too loud. When at last you rise, you sense a shift in self. Quieter, deepened, more still. Return through the cloister. A slow procession, you step back into the cloister walkway. The air feels deeper now, as if inhaling memory. You pass again beneath the alcoves, some empty, some holding faded icons of saints. Stone benches invite passing reflection. Each alcove feels charged with rarely spoken prayer. Walking beneath the vaulted ribs, you sense how this corridor held daily rituals. Monks passing, pilgrims seeking cool shade, lone readers walking in contemplation. Textures of the journey. Perhaps you pause and rest your palm against the cold, smooth stone near the walkway. Your breath quiets further. A quiet revelation. In this sequence from the hidden chapel back through the cloister, you come to understand something soft and profound. Authority does not always demand attention. The hidden chapel offered sanctuary. The cloister offered pause. Now emerging once again into broader air, you carry peace with you, bridging to further stillness. As you finish this passage, your senses may shift. You stand at the threshold once again, ready to move deeper into spaces where knowledge is cultivated, decisions recorded, and spiritual guidance prepared behind closed doors and behind softer walls. When you're ready, and we will step into the bishop's small library and patterns of thought, a quiet archive of intention. You leave the hushed cloister behind and step quietly into a smaller, more intimate chamber, an archive of thought, a sanctuary of parchment and ink. This is the bishop's private library, a room that holds centuries of prayer, governance. A narrow window casts pale morning light that pools across low wooden shelves, each crammed with scrolls, bound codices, and loose parchment bundles wrapped in linen. The light falls unevenly, highlighting the gentle curves of leather spines, the cracked edges of vellum, and the neat rows of faded script, and reflection wrapped in the slow unfolding of soft lamplight, and the scent of old leather. Instead, it invites you to pause, to breathe, with centuries of to dwell in the space where decisions were shaped with patience and reverence. The air here feels thick, not with dust, but with the weight of careful attention. This is a room of quiet purpose. It's not meant to impress or overwhelm, yet beneath the newer text, faint traces of older letters remain, ghostly and insistent. Its flame wavers gently, casting soft shadows across a small pile of parchments. Nearby, a brass inkwell holds dark, thick ink, its surface still, reflecting the flame's trembling light. Resting beside the inkwell is a quill, freshly trimmed, poised and ready for use. The presence of these overwritten layers reminds you that thought itself is cumulative, always evolving, never quite replaced, always carried forward in some form. The chair, though plain, is shaped for long hours of seated contemplation, its wooden arms worn by generations of elbows resting wearily in thought. Thick rugs soften footsteps, muffling movement and creating a hushed ambient. Heavy tapestries hang on the walls, their embroidered surfaces swallowing sound and lending the room a hushed solemnity. The quillite yet demanding finesse requires a patient hand and focused mind. The vellum pages inside are supple yet firm, glowing softly under the pale window light. You open it slowly, revealing neat columns of text written in right-angled Carolingian script. These pages were not meant to be rushed, but studied, memorized, and pondered. Each letter is precise and deliberate, the margins carefully ruled. The stone walls seem to absorb every flicker of flame and rustle of parchment. Outside, a bird calls softly, its note distant, as if echoing through time. Within the library, silence reigns, but it is a silence full of presence. Each stroke of ink onto parchment is deliberate, a conscious act of recording thought and shaping decisions. His footsteps are soft on the thick rug. As he approaches the desk, he responds with calm authority, dipping the quill into ink and writing with careful strokes. Blessings, instructions, admonitions, are given with measured weight and tempered by patience. He kneels respectfully, breaking a wax seal on a bundle of letters. Nearby stands a plain wooden cross, its unadorned lines echoing simplicity and devotion rather than grandeur. They contemplate divine order, monastic discipline, pastoral care, matters of eternal import rather than fleeting urgency. The reliquary connects the bishop to the sacred. The cross reminds him of humility and service. The tone is meditative, drawing the reader into a slow dance of reflection and understanding. The room's silence deepens, embracing you in calm. Here, time slows to a measured pulse, marked not by the passage of hours, but by the quiet unfolding of thought. Letters sent from this chamber will travel on horseback and river barge, bearing words that hold sway over abbeys, villager. These notes are like whispered prayers or silent questions, fragments of thought left in hope that future readers will find meaning in them. Wax seals are pressed firmly, then gently polished. He rises from the desk, stretches his fingers aching, yet steady, and folds his hands one last time, not in hurried prayer, but in gratitude for knowledge received, for patience maintained, for purpose embraced. Shelves of quiet knowledge, the incense mingles with the faintly acidic temps of old parchment and the mellow, earthy warmth of aged oak. The weight of centuries presses lightly on your shoulders, not oppressive, but this layered perfume is more than aroma, it is memory, ritual, and calm embodied. Patience is woven into the very fabric of the space. The heavy stones of the cathedral and the fragile pages of the library bear equal weight on his soul. The lamp is left unlit, allowing the room to fade back into twilight. You step out into the cloister, feeling the cool air on your skin. Both speak of endurance of faith, duty, and quiet authority. You feel the slow pulse of inquiry, the rhythm of meditation, the heartbeat of wisdom. The books here are few, but each one carries immense significance. Just a calm, enduring stillness that invites you to dwell, to think, and to listen. Perhaps here, centuries ago, a bishop once traced a line of script by lamplight, whispering a prayer with each careful letter. Or a visiting envoy leaned close to read a sealed letter, their voice hushed in respect. Their bindings are simple, rough-hewn leather, stitched with flax thread, bearing titles hand-lettered in Latin. Statuta, Decretalia, Epist. Some texts are theological. Among these treasures are palimpsests, ancient manuscripts, where earlier writings have been carefully scraped away to make room for new words. Here, the voices of monastic scholars mingle with the wisdom of past bishops, each volume a node in a long chain of contemplation and counsel. These aren't volumes of spectacle but of substance. Texts that shaped doctrine, governance, and spiritual life for generations. Tools of study. On a low, sturdy desk sits a single flickering candle in a brass holder. This is the bishop's workspace. The very tools here embody intention and care. Each carefully folded scroll, each weighted codex is a thread in the complex tapestry of ecclesiastical power woven not through shouting or spectacle, but through measured ink, careful wording, and silent reflection. Textures of thought and space. The desk's surface is polished smooth by years of use, warm to the touch. A faint scent lingers. Sandalwood or frankincense, burning low in a hidden censer. You breathe deeply, feeling yourself drawn into the stillness. Patterns of reflection. You pull a leather-bound codex from the shelf, feeling its weight settle into your hands. The words here are not hurried. You imagine the scribe's hand as it formed each letter, slow, patient, mindful of the meaning behind the marks. The surrounding silence as you read, the quiet of the room deepens. Time here seems to stretch and fold. Centuries converge in this single moment. There is no rush, no clamor for attention. A visitor's gentle presence. The door opens quietly and a visitor slips in, a messenger, perhaps a monk or an ecclesiastical courier. The bishop receives the scrolls and reads, the flames light flickering against his furrowed brow. The exchange is solemn but never harsh. It is an interaction steeped in respect for knowledge and duty, a dialogue held in quiet, deliberate tones. Symbols of quiet authority. Resting on the desk is a small silver reliquary containing a fragment of saintly bone embedded beneath crystal-clear glass. These objects, simple yet profound, embody the essence of the room, a blend of faith, contemplation, and governance. Together, they ground the chamber's heavy air, lending the space a palpable sacredness beyond the written word. Waiting between words, you lean back in the chair, feeling its solid support. Across the margins of an open codex, you imagine the bishop's own annotations, personal reflections, queries posed in Latin, subtle cross-references. The lamp's flame dances, gently, flickering without urgency. A deliberate close as the evening deepens. The bishop carefully closes each volume, rolling scrolls with reverence, tying them with soft twine. The silence settles around him like a familiar cloak. Gentle departure. You replace the codex on the shelf, brushing aside a few motes of dust caught in the soft light. The wider world awaits. The towering vaults, the stained glass windows, the carved stone, but you carry with you the hushed world of slow thought, deliberate decision, and enduring faith. In this quiet archive, time itself seems to pause, a place where reflection meets responsibility, and where the weight of stone is balanced by the lightness of wisdom. When you are ready, and we will move to closing reflection, a moment to gather the many stories of stone, spirit, and human care before gently concluding our cathedral journey. Holding the quiet between stone and spirit, you step away slowly from the bishop's chambers, the flicker of candlelight retreating behind carved wooden screens. The scent of aged parchment, softened by centuries of dust, lingers faintly in the air like a whisper from the past. Outside, the cathedral waits, in its vast silence and enduring presence shaped by the passage of time, the breath of generations, and the steady labor of countless hands. The cathedral breathes around you. Its walls pulse with a quiet rhythm measured not by hours or days, but by lifetimes. You pause on the worn flagstones beneath your feet, feeling the weight of all that has been shaped, here by faith, by hope, by relentless human striving. Between the mortal hands that carved and raised this place, and the divine vision that lifted them, it is breath made solid, a slow and patient heartbeat that carries the hopes of centuries. Now you stand at the still intersection between stone and spirit. between the visible and the unseen. The cathedral, a living presence, more than a building. The cathedral is a living entity, to patience that outlasts generations, to the quiet courage of those who build without ever seeing completion. Its stone is more than rock. It is memory. It is voice. Each block, each arch, each delicate tracery of stained glass is a word in an unending conversational language of light and shadow. This place does not rush. It waits. Joints that creak like ancient wood, stiff with years of bending and raising stone. It waits for the sun to rise and fall, for the seasons to turn, for prayers to be spoken and passed on like whispered secrets. It is a silent witness to the sacrifice behind the glory. The cathedral teaches endurance not only of stone, but of spirit. It stands as a testament to the slow, steady unfolding of greatness. You sense the pulse of all those who labored here, hands wrapped in linen, scarred and eyes intent on their craft, voices low with quiet wisdom and laughter. They labored for a purpose greater than themselves, a purpose woven into the very geometry of the walls, into the shafts of light that pierced the stained glass. The hands that built it, you remember those hands. Hands bruised by hammer and chisel, rough with grit and dust. Hands wrapped in linen strips, protecting tender skin from splinters and stone chips. Hands weathered by the sharp edge of cold iron and lime. Some men cough more than they speak, a subtle, cruel companion named Stone Lung, where dust settles deep in the chest and never leaves. Apprentices learning with uncertain fingers. Elder masons guiding with quiet nods and soft laughter breaking through the endless rhythm of work. Their lives were woven tightly with the cathedral's stone, each strike of hammer a prayer, each carved detail a silent hymn. They may never have gazed up at the soaring vaults they helped to raise, but their legacy endures, etched forever in the fabric of this sacred place. Invisible threads through time, you, too, are now part of this thread. Though centuries divide you from the builders, your breath mingles with theirs in this space. Your footsteps echo softly where theirs once fell. Your eyes trace the carvings, the faded marks, the delicate geometry of windows linking you to a continuum of craft, devotion, and patience. Invisible threads bind you to the past. Threads of care, skill, and quiet ambition. Threads that carry a message across time. Great things are made slowly. Great things are made with humility. Great things are made by many hands, none seeking fame, all sharing purpose. Lessons in patience and presence in the sacredness of presence. In a world spinning quickly measured in seconds, and screens, the cathedral invites you to slow your pace, to stretch the welcome of each moment, to listen for the settling dust on ancient stones, to watch sunlight shimmer through fractured glass petals, to feel the rough texture of worn wood beneath your fingertips, to honor the quiet labor shaping worlds. This place whispers a lesson in patience, in the faith to work without certainty of reward, knowing that your efforts ripple outward beyond your sight. The sacredness of quiet labor. There is a deep sacredness in shaping stone with steady hands, in the sound of hammer striking chisel, ringing out like a heartbeat, in the steady rhythm of saw and plane, the careful measurement and cut, in the slow turning of fragile pages in the bishop's library, candlelight flickering on yellowed parchment, in the secret smile carved behind a column. All these parts form a delicate harmony, a meditation on purpose and presence, on humility and hope. Each task, no matter how small, holds sacred weight. Holding the moment now, you hold this moment in your hands. You stand quietly on the threshold of past and present, stone and spirit. You breathe deeply. Inhale the coolness of stone and shadow. Exhale the weight of time, carrying instead the lightness of connection. You feel the cathedral's presence within you, a slow unfolding of wonder, a patient, enduring breath. An invitation to carry on. This is not the end. This reflection is a pause, a soft gathering of all you have seen and felt. The cathedral's story continues beyond stone and light. Its lessons ripple outward, reaching into your days, your work, your heart. You are invited to carry this grace forward, to honor the invisible labor in your world, to embrace patience, to find meaning in quiet moments. When you are ready, you will return, stepping again into the shadow and light, the stone and spirit. The closing breath, you close your eyes. You breathe, in, out, a rhythm, as old as the earth, as quiet as prayer, the soft passage ahead. When you are ready, the next step will lead you even deeper, into the stillness beneath the stone, into hidden chambers where memory rests, into the heart of mystery and devotion. Until then, carry this moment gently. Carry the cathedral's quiet grace with you. The hidden heart of the cathedral, as the glowing daylight filtering through the soaring stained glass windows fades behind you. A gentle hush wraps around the cool stone beneath your feet. The cathedral's vast, echoing aisles and soaring pinnacles slowly dissolve into soft, distant memories as you descend into the depths below. Each step down the spiral staircase takes you further from the bustling world above, into a sanctuary of stillness and shadow. The air grows cooler, heavier with the quiet weight of time itself. You find yourself drawn into the cathedral's secret heart. The vaulted crypts, the light dwindles, shifting from warm gold to a muted gray, casting shadows that dance and stretch along the rough-hewn walls. And cloisters, places of hidden reverence, where stone thickens, the light softens, and the breath of centuries lingers like a whispered prayer. The slow descent, a journey beneath the world. The stairwell beneath the cathedral curves gently in a spiral, as if carved from the inside of a giant, sleeping shell. Each step echoes softly against the cool flagstones, worn smooth by countless feet that have come and gone over the centuries. There is a quiet reverence here, a solemnity unlike the grandeur and light above. This is a place where time slows, where moments stretch like the shadows cast by flickering candlelight. The walls narrow close, and the faint scent of damp earth rises, mingling with hints of ancient incense and the faint, lingering musk of stone. As you descend, your senses sharpen. The temperature drops, and the steady rhythm of your footsteps blends with the distant drip of water falling unseen into dark pools. Descending further, you enter spaces that hold not only stone but flesh remembered. Here, beneath the earth, lie bones wrapped in silence, and history remnants of bishops, saints, and faithful worshippers laid to rest in quiet dignity. Their thick walls support the immense weight of the building above, arches and spires that reach for the heavens but below. The space feels intimate and protected, almost womb-like in its embrace. The air carries the faint scent of moss and ancient earth, mixed with the soft flicker of candle smoke. This descent feels less like a journey downward and more like slipping gently beneath the surface of time itself. His whispered prayers seem to mingle with the steady, slow pulse of the cathedral's stone heart. They seem to breathe with the weight they carry, stoic and unyielding. Some reliquaries contain bones wrapped in delicate cloth, tied with crimson thread, while others hold dust gathered from faraway shrines. Others hold ornate sarcophagi carved with inscriptions and symbols whose meanings have softened with time. The vaults, stone that holds the weight of heaven. The air is fragrant with the scent of wet stone and soft moss, mixed with the faint aroma of herbs that grow quietly in sunlit corners. The cathedral's vaults are vast, chambers of solid stone, designed not for spectacle but for the gentle rustle of leaves and the slow drip of water from gutters create a delicate symphony of nature and stone. The beauty here is subtle, meant not to dazzle but to invite reflection. You notice the massive pillars rising like ancient trees from the floor, their capitals carved with delicate foliage and resting in serene silence. You can almost see the flicker of candlelight through narrow windows, and hear the quiet turning of parchment in small, simple libraries. These containers hold relics, fragments of bones, scraps of parchment with prayers, or holy soil brought from distant Jerusalem. The floor beneath your feet is cold and uneven, worn by centuries of footsteps. The language of the crypt, bones and memory. He lights a candle and opens a prayer book, the faint scratch of his pen marking thoughts on faith and the divine. In the heart of these vaults lie the cathedral's oldest secrets. The crypts, a simple cot covered with coarse linen rests in one corner, and a wooden table holds a few worn books and a quill. The crypt is a chamber of stillness, often cooler and damper than the spaces above. Imagine a lone monk kneeling here in the dead of night, the soft rustle of his habit the only sound alongside the slow drip of water from unseen crevices. Some crypts are simple, marked only by worn slabs of stone. In these quiet rooms, the cathedral seems to hold its breath, cradling memory like a fragile flame. Hidden reliquaries and silent offerings. The air changes with the passing years, carrying the scent of rain, smoke, and flowers. Above, the cloisters catch the light of each new day. Among the stones, tucked away in narrow recesses and behind carved screens, rest small lead boxes and vessels known as The reasons for these secret burials are as mysterious as the objects themselves. One can imagine a humble mason or a devout monk placing such a box carefully into a hidden nook, saying a silent prayer for the protection of the cathedral and those who dwell within. The presence of these relics adds a layer of quiet sanctity to the vaults, weaving together the physical and spiritual threads of this ancient place. The cloisters, gardens of stillness and contemplation moving back above the crypts. But still, beneath the roofline, you enter the cloisters, a tranquil garden, enclosed by arcades of slender columns and graceful arches. Here, the world seems suspended in a perpetual calm, but to the enduring power of silence, memory, and the sacred. Birdsong filters gently through the open windows, a soft chorus that blends with the distant tolling of bells far above. And monks of long ago, but to the very essence of this sacred place. Monks once walked these cloisters slowly, their footsteps light and measured, lost in prayer or meditation. Each column, each carved capital, tells a story, leaves curling into angels' wings, animals frozen in mid-leap, vines twisting into quiet blessings. Monks' cells. Spaces of solitude and devotion near the cloisters are the monks' Celestini rooms, where those who served the cathedral retreated from the world. These cells are humble, with rough plaster walls and small windows that catch the morning light. Imagine a monk rising early, the chill of dawn seeping through the stone walls. These small rooms are filled with silence, and the quiet hum of devotion, a world apart from the grandeur above, but no less sacred, the silence and sound of stone as you move through these spaces. The cathedral teaches you a new language, one of stillness and subtle sound. The stone holds whispers, not in voices, but in echoes. The drip of water, the sigh of the wind through narrow cracks, the soft shifting of dust and the beam of a candle all become part of a quiet chorus. Here, even silence speaks. It tells of centuries of hope and loss, of steady hands, shaping stone, and steady hearts, holding faith. It invites you to slow your breath, soften your thoughts, and listen not just with your ears, but with your whole being. The living cathedral. The cathedral is not just a monument, frozen in time. It is a living place, breathing with the rhythms of the earth and sky. The stones settle slowly, adjusting to the seasons. Beneath the earth, the crypts hold the stillness of the past. Together, these spaces form a quiet balance, a reminder that the cathedral's story is as much about the unseen as the seen. Returning to the surface, a gentle awakening as you begin to ascend. Leaving the vaults behind, the light grows softer, warmer. You step back into the cloisters, feeling the sun's gentle touch on your skin and the warmth of the air. The distant ringing of bells calls you upward, drawing you from the depths back to the grand spaces above. You carry the stillness with you, the calm presence of stone and shadow, memory and faith. And as you move through the cathedral spaces once more, you feel a quiet connection not only to the builders. The cathedral, with all its soaring heights and hidden depths, stands as a testament not only to human skill and devotion. You pause for a moment beneath a stained glass window, watching the colored light spill like a gentle prayer across the ancient stone. Here, in this living monument, the past and present meet quietly, inviting you to rest, to reflect, and to be still. A meditation on stone, silence, and presence. You step softly into the great nave once more, the hush magnified now that you carry with you the cathedral's hidden stories. Light filters through the rose window high above, refracting into shifting ribbons of color-rich reds, serene blues, and warm ambers dancing across ancient stone. This space, once overwhelming in scale, now feels gentle like the last heavy breath before sleep. The grandeur of the space greets you, but in a deeper voice than before. Its arches still reach heavenward, yet now feel tender, grounded. You stand beneath the window, breathing slowly, absorbing the quiet. The tapestry of the journey lets your mind gently trace the path you've traveled. From the grit-laden scaffold where masons bent beneath angled sun, inhaling dust, hands wrapped in linen, bodies worn by slow repetition and quiet resolve, to the sketchbook page of Master Mason Villar, illuminated by candlelight, measured lines converging in silent geometry, traveling along dusty roads to find new stones to shape, to the carvings of cryptic beasts and tiny jokes tucked beneath arches, hidden messages entwined in stone for those patient enough to look, to the bishop's chamber, velvet tapestries, sealed scrolls, and the weight of spiritual governance practiced in soft speech and steady ink, through cloister gardens and hidden chapels where candle flame met petition and breath bowed in prayer, into the bishop's library, where page and pen held more weight than banners, where each codex contained centuries of deliberation and devotion, down into crypts steeped in darkness, where bone and memory abide, where trust in the sacred lay beneath the weight of vaults, through cloisters brushed by birdsong, monks' cells warmed by dawnlight, and quiet gardens softened by moss and history. All these places now form a single cathedral, a place where labor and light, silence and scent, labor and legacy meet. The cathedral, as in a sanctuary now. Imagine the cathedral built not only from stone, but from quiet intention. Picture the arches as larger patterns of breath, the carvings as verse without vocal tones, the sealed scrolls as decisions folded into care. See yourself not only as visitor, but as inhabitant, your memory woven into the fabric of the place. Allow the cathedral to become internal. Let its hush settle in your chest. Let its patience fill your lungs. Let its light shimmer across your closing eyes. The hands that built and loved inhale now, and breathe in the presence of those long gone. The masons who bent beneath the eastern wind, shaping blocks of grey dust into arches. The master sketcher tracing crane arms and vault curves beneath gaslit evening. The anonymous mark-carver quietly inscribing his symbol into stone. The bishop writing petitions in the monk kneeling in hidden chapel, breathing prayer in the hush before dawn. Each thread of human devotion, anonymous or revered, became part of the cathedral's breath. Their patience, their labor, their faithful echo through the spaces you traveled. And now, in your quiet reception, they continue. Reflections on purpose and patience. Take another slow breath. Sense the cathedral's lessons, cultivating your own presence. Work with care, speak with thought, build in silence. Leave your mark not for acclaim, but for quiet continuity. The cathedral has lived longer than kingdoms, outlasting generations. Its endurance comes from layers of invisible work, one stone at a time, one symbol, one prayer. Let this intention settle within you. Let your own actions, even small, become part of that invisible architecture of care. A moment of presence. Now, imagine standing in the center of that nave. Let yourself become still. Let your thoughts settle like dust motes drifting in a sunbeam. Feel the cathedral breathe beneath you. Let your breath respond. Feel the stone's solidity anchoring you. Feel the light gentleness holding you. Feel the awe not loud, but wide and quiet. Let your mind pause here. Let your body rest here. Carrying the quiet forward, this final reflection is not the end, but a turning point. The cathedral's story extends outward into your own, into the people you meet, into the work you do, into the times you wait, the times you rest, the times you hope. The hush you carry now becomes a shield, soft, steady, patient. It will travel home with you. It will quiet fearful thoughts. It will uphold stillness in restless nights, and it will remind you, endurance is built on measured breath, thoughtful pause, and unseen care. Soft guidance toward rest as this journey concludes. Allow your awareness to shift gently. If your eyes are open, slowly drop your gaze to where you feel your breath lowest in your chest. If your eyes are closed, feel the faint pull of your heart beneath your ribs. Allow each exhale to release tension. Let every inhalation draw in calm. Imagine the sounds and sights of the cathedral dissolving into gentle memory. Visualize the rose windows, colored light blooming softly behind closed lids. Notice how your body wants to unwind. Allow that invitation or urgency. Rest into it. Final breath and blessing. Take one last full breath. Inhale deep and slow, gathering presence, care, memory. Hold for a moment and release. Exhale, gently letting go of thought, of effort, of time. Your shoulders drop. Your gaze softens. Your mind loosens. You are no longer walking through halls of stone, but resting within the cathedral's calm. A blessing of present. May the patience of ancient hands cushion your spirit tonight. May the quiet devotion of monks echo within your breathing. May the masked carvings and hidden symbols accompany your dream. May the stone's weight remind you of your own strength. And may the warmth of colored light guide you into rest. Rest now. Rest deeper. And let the cathedral's silence carry you into peace.